Hi, everyone. How are you? I hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas. I did. I had a great Christmas. I spent it with my family and my granddaughter, and it was just heaven on earth for reals. I hope everybody had a great one. And I hope you guys are ready to stay for the long haul because today we are going to be streaming day one of the Melody Farris trial. I only know like a tiny little bit of this story because hold on a second. Because I actually didn't watch this trial when it was going on. I wish that I had, but I didn't. And hold on a sec. And I wish that I had. My mini Bindi recommended it to me. She said, Mom, it's a really interesting trial. And there's an alternative suspect, which you guys know I like. So I'm kind of curious to see what was presented and, go over it with you guys and see if the jury got it right. Hey, may the 4th be with you. Hi, never saw this trial and was interested. So glad you're doing this. Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Shauna, good to see you. Hey, Love Louie, good to see you. So yeah, I'm going to just go over this trial and we'll go from there. I'm going to do day one. So be ready because day one is probably going to be a long day. Let me add this to the stream, but let's get to where like opening statements begin so that we can understand what's going on. I believe this is jury let's see what's going on here. The judge is talking. Let's try right here.
Are directed by the court. So I will allow y'all to bring in coffee or you're already set up.
All right.
Okay. All right. You can proceed.
Let's see how it goes. Oh, did you? Shauna, I haven't watched it. I'm curious.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, when we're doing jury selection, I talked to you about.
So basically, all that I know about this trial is that it happened in Cherokee County, which is also the same county that Chloe Driver was tried in. I know that this happened back in 2018, so this has taken quite some time to get to trial. And I know that the prosecutor's theory is the motive for the crime is that there was issues in the marriage. Apparently, there's allegations of infidelity. Hey, Pointer Lover, but I'm not sure on which side. I tried really not to watch a whole lot of this or really take any of it in that I did see because I wanted to go over this fresh with you guys. So without further ado, here we go. We're going to start for real this time.
Being legal investigators. The
Oh,
object of all legal investigation is the discovery of truth. That's why you're here. The question is really, why are you here? I want to put you at ease through this trial. It's going to be a long trial. It will be a slow burn. There's a lot of evidence in this case. But why is the media here? Look around. Why are these people here? Why are the attorneys here? Why is the defendant here? Gary Farris will not walk through that door. No problem, Judge. Gary will not walk through that door. In this trial, what you have to do is ask yourself, what is the truth? You have to ask yourself certain questions. You do not have to ask yourself, was Gary murdered? He was. The evidence is going to show that. You do not have to ask yourself, was Gary Farris burned on a burn pile? He was. The question you have to ask is, who did this? Who did it? This is a murder. This is a heinous murder. He was shot, killed, put on a burn pile, and burned. The question you have to ask, what the evidence demands an answer of, is who murdered Gary? Now, these people that are here to see the trial, what I want you to do is they're going to follow the evidence too. But I want you to look at me. Don't worry about that. Follow the evidence. The evidence demands an answer, and the answer is close. It's at hand. It's close to me. It's close to you. It was close to Gary. When the object of all legal investigation is the discovery of truth, at this trial, what you have to do is you have to shrink the world. When you see the evidence, this is Cherokee County. They don't have a lot of murders. They definitely don't have a lot of murders when someone was shot and put on a burn pile. You shrink the world. And when you shrink the world, you're going to come to one conclusion and one answer of who. Not what happened, not how it happened, but who did it. And she's near. Frankie, she don't mind. If I can get this technology to work, and Megan's going to help me here, I want to move.
Oh, thank you, Bogart. Thank you for becoming a member. Thank you for supporting me and the channel. I appreciate that very much. Welcome to the ward. I think I'm going to speed him up to 1.25 just because it's a little slow for me. I think that's a decent speed. We'll still be able to hear and all the things, but maybe it'll go a little faster. All right, here we go.
I'll talk loud so everybody can hear me, but what I want to do is, as we go through this, be comfortable, be at peace as you go through this evidence. Relax and listen to what there is. I know there's a lot going on, but you are the most important people in this matter. It doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what the defense says, it's matter what does the evidence say? What does it speak? Let me introduce you to the Farris family. You'll see in front of you there's the family line, the lineage, and you'll see on the screen here there's a photograph. You see Gary. Thank you. You see Gary is in this picture, and this is a happy time. This is Emily, the bride in the middle, a daughter. This is a wedding, I think, about 2 years before the murder, 2016. You see Gary, he's in this picture. He's standing there with his wife, the defendant. Now, there are 4 children. And as you go through this, you're going to probably take notes because you hear the same names over and over again. You're going to hear about the Farris. You're going to hear about the Farris wheel. Unfortunately for this family, is they have drama. They are not a perfect family. My family is imperfect. Everybody's family is. They didn't ask for their life experiences and the good and the bad and ugly to come in, but that's what the evidence is going to show. And I have to present it. I have great sympathy, everybody does, for families like this.
Okay, I'll try not to interrupt too much, but we got to give a little commentary here. I agree with the prosecutor. No family is perfect. We all have some dysfunction of one level or another. But also, I want to point out that the bridesmaid's dress is very pretty. Usually, I mean, maybe it's just been a while since I've seen a wedding photograph, but usually the bridesmaids' dresses aren't all that great. But this one's okay. Like, you might even be able to wear it again, is my point. So that's nice. It's really all I have to say because I really don't. Although also I want to say that to be shot and then your body to be put on a burn pile is horrific. I can't even imagine. All right, here we go.
But the evidence is going to show what was going on in their family. It's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like anything else. Most families, however, don't consist of murder. Now in this family, you're going to see Chris. On the right side of the screen, you see Gary and Melody. To the right as we look at is Chris. He's the oldest, probably about 37. On the other side is Scott. Scott's about 35. Chris was living in many ways his own life. He was married, had his own kids. You hear about the kids. They're going to be here. You're going to hear about Ella and Ashton, the grandkids. Scott was in the military over Iraq. He came back for a while, lived on the property, worked the property, had kind of an agreement with his dad that he would work the land and he would get paid. Didn't have a job really after he came back, and then ended up with the family. But that was his agreement with his dad. Gary was a very generous man, loved his family. So you had the two guys, the two sons, Chris and Scott, then you had the two girls, Emily in the middle and Amanda beside her. Amanda was the youngest, the baby, if you would. They were probably around 30, 28, around those age. Gary and Melody got married at a young age. I think it was around 20, 38 years, almost 39. They were married for a long time. They were together, Alabama, small family. Gary worked hard. You're going to learn a lot about Gary. You're going to learn a lot about Melody. And what you're going to learn is the evidence is going to show that they're both, I dare say, brilliant. He practiced law. He went to the University of Alabama. I think he graduated first in his class. Extremely smart, introverted. The defendant, she liked the life of being married to a rich lawyer. Gary did so well when he was in Alabama. The firm he worked for, corporate law, real estate law, things like that, very successful. They sent him to the Atlanta area here to open up an office for the firm. Did very good. Very smart, worked his way up. I think he ended up being a senior partner. Very smart, loved his job. One thing with lawyers, the longer they do it, the longer they get better at it, the more they get better at it, and they stay at it. But sometimes what they do is they don't interact with, because they interact with people all day long. Oftentimes when they get home, they get close, they get small. And Gary's like that. In their wedding, their marriage, they had some issues that we're going to talk about. And it looks like they were happy here. This was about 2016, but there was a lot going on behind the scenes.
There's always a lot going on behind the scenes.
You could set the clock to his routine, his habits. He's one of those guys. The question you got to answer in this trial is not was he murdered, not how was he murdered, but who did it. The evidence demands the answer that he was murdered. He was shot and killed, put on a burn pile. This burn pile, behind his house. His remains were found. Not much. Gary was a big guy, about 6'4", 300 pounds, give or take. About 33 pounds remained.
Wow. I'm glad he paused there to let that sink in, because that's a huge, important detail. Okay. There have been many cases where a perpetrator has tried to get rid of the evidence by burning it. The body. Chandler Halderson, we're looking at you, Chazzle Dazzle. And it's not an easy task. And so for there to only be that amount of a whole person left is really sad. And that means that it was likely burning for quite some time, because, well, I'll let the prosecutor tell y'all.
No robbery, no home invasions, no enemies, no road rage, nothing like that. When you shrink the world, in a case like this, husband and wife, wife kills husband, husband dies. The answer to the question, who did it, sits right there. Melody Walker Farris. Let me talk to you about their property. They were affluent. When I grew up in South Carolina, I would say they were rich. They were rich. He made a lot of money. He would make probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Sometimes his paychecks, even after you take all the taxes out, $20,000. They'd have profit sharing and things like that. He made a lot of money.
Happy New Year to you too, Bogart.
2511 Purcell Lane, Cherokee County. It's a hobby farm. If you see, there's actually a road coming down Purcell Lane, and you see that white area, that's dirt. They had horses. If you go up the driveway, it's along the trees at the bottom, and then there's a driveway in the middle of this photograph. That's to the barn where Scott stayed.
It seems like a
Now,
sad
the
case,
family had
Shauna.
trouble. Chris had some issues with drinking. He got in an argument with his mom about a year for this. He said something along the lines that Chris was going to beat her to a pulp, put her in a pine box or something along those lines. That's what she says. No, he says. But they had a problem. Scott got back from the military, was living there, getting money from his dad. Emily was married. She had a husband Millie didn't like. He got in some financial troubles, some legal troubles, criminal troubles. Amanda was young. And they all took money from their dad. Not in the bad sense, but he had money. He was willing to do with it. And he gave him a hard time. When you going to get a job? When you going to pay this back? Those type of things. But he could afford it. House, I believe, is worth the property more than $1 million. Now, when you go through your notes, you think about
Well,
this.
that's a
We know
beautiful
this
house.
Sometimes we have to slow down because you don't know the places where this occurred. And the murder occurred in this house. The shooting occurred in the house, in the kitchen, down to the basement.
Oh my gosh.
Now, as you look at this house, it's kind of unique in the sense that it's 2 or 3 car garage right here. But as you look at this photograph, you'll see the front. If you go to where that pine tree is, go right behind that pine tree. That's the front. This is looking, if you were kind of looking, if the pond was behind you, you're looking up at what I would call the front, but it's not. It's really the side. I think it's kind of like the east side. But it's got a deck there, and it's a circular deck. And under that deck was where Gary stayed. The basement or the ground level was Gary's domain. That house was the defendant's. She had everything she wanted. It's immaculate. She liked to live the lifestyle. Furs, coats, jewelry, nice paintings, nice furniture, things like that. That was her domain. She was a go-getter. She was tough. She got after it. She cleaned, almost OCD to the point that she cleaned. Her house was beautiful. Gary lived in the bottom. He had a bedroom down there. He had a CPAP. He slept in that CPAP every night. We're going to talk about that. But he stayed down in the bottom. If you kind of walk out, you see where that, it starts to go on the right side. There's an oval where it juts out. Below that is 2 doors. You'll hear me talk about it. You probably hear me chuckle at some point. There's doors that slide open like this to where he would have his couch and his TV and things like that. I call them American doors because right to the right are French doors. Just how I remember. And you could walk out that American doors, and when you come out there, if you turn left, that's where the burn pile is. This is over by the barn looking back towards the house. They had horses. This is a nice property. This is the barn. This is where Scott stayed. Scott stayed on the top, basically being an employee of his dad. Scott wanted the property, loved the property, liked the property, loved the horses. He was invested in it. He was thinking to move on one day and get another job, but he was locked in this property. And he and his mom worked. They may bicker and things like that, but they worked the property. They did a lot of work. And he lived in that barn there on the top. This is back to the house, transitioning back to the house. If you walk in that front door, this is what you see. Now, as you walk in, you're going to see evidence. If you walk in that front door, and I'm staring at the steps. If I'm staring at the steps and I turn right, you're going to go to what I call the kitchen table. If you turn left, there's a bathroom. If you
Wow,
go straight,
that's
go down the
beautiful.
hallway to the master bedroom. This is the master bedroom. That door right there, you can walk out and go to the balcony. And that's where that oval porch was. You can stand out over that and look. You can look at the pond. Study room, library, very nice. Very fluent. This is the dining area, looking out towards the pond. Nice. This is the kitchen. This is the doorway from the kitchen to the basement. You go down the basement. To the left here, if you look at the picture, there's that light switch and whatnot. Then there's that cabinet. Right around the corner is the steps you come down. It's 12 steps down, a landing, 4 steps down.
Wow.
Landing, you stand right there. If you're standing off the steps, you get off the steps, you look straight forward, you're going to look at that bar. This is looking back from the, kind of to the side of the American doors, looking back towards the bar. As you look at this picture, to the right is a hallway. You go down that hallway was Gary's office, where he'd hang out and do stuff, work. He'd like to get up in the morning. Because he was a partner, because he'd been doing so long, because he had those routines, he would get up and go check email. To say that Gary Farris was a workaholic is an understatement. The man's like a lot of attorneys. Check the emails at night, vacation, it doesn't matter. He's working, he's checking the email, he's busy. He has such patterns and routines you can set your clock by. So as you look here, you go to right, it's his office. To the left, if you go to the left, there's a hallway that goes to his bedroom.
Oh, me too, Bogart. It's beautiful. That house is beautiful.
In July of 2018, we're going to focus on 3 main dates. July 3rd, July 4th, and July 5th. You're going to hear us talk about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Y'all, when I do trials, I am not perfect. I'll mess up names and dates and times, but this is what we're talking about. I'll catch myself and say, I didn't mean 2020, I meant 2018. What we want to do, again, this trial is not about being perfect. It's about the truth. To be authentic. When we did jury selection, you heard me say to be authentic. These are the dates we're going to focus on. July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I just want to kind of give an overview of some of the evidence. This is not all evidence. You're going to hear a lot of evidence, including evidence that we're not going to present. But this is Tuesday, July 3rd. We don't know exactly when Gary was killed, and we don't have to prove that. The evidence does not require us to prove you the exact time that Gary was shot and killed. But we have a very good idea. Tuesday night around 10 p.m. most likely. Last time he used that CPAP was Tuesday morning. A little after midnight, he got on it. He got up that morning and turned it off. And that machine, when they did a search on, shows the times. He's not going to bed without that CPAP. He never used it again. We have no reading that was used again. Now, on Tuesday around lunchtime, Gary had an interesting relationship with his family. Now, he had some good times, but it was also different. I don't know about y'all, if I go to a restaurant and I see a friend or family, I'm going to go up and say hey to them, we're going to hang out, we're going to do stuff. Especially with my dad. Well, on Tuesday, Scott and the defendant were working and they decided to go to lunch. They went to Cherokee Ranch restaurant, a local restaurant. While they were there, Gary was already there. He pays his bill and he leaves and doesn't say a word to him. And that's not uncommon. Because their relationship is not a touchy-feely type of relationship in this family. That's not this family. They communicate a lot by text messages, emails, instead of just calling and talking. That afternoon, Scott went to a lake house. He was there that afternoon and evening. There's a text asking about sleeping over for Aston, which is Chris's daughter, the grandchild. There's a text from her, from the defendant, saying, what about tomorrow night, not tonight? And that was going to show that the defendant loved her grandchildren. If they were close or she could get to them, she would get to them, but not this time. There was a visit Big Daddy and Grandma. That's what they called Gary Meldy, Big Daddy, Grandma. Chris and Aston came over that night. Gary was getting the burn pile ready to go. He liked to burn things. He liked to do it. They were there talking to him, seeing what he's doing, and they left that night because couldn't stay, and so they went back. About 10:52 p.m., there's a phone call between the defendant and Scott, and it was basically the defendant saying the horses are out, when you coming home? Scott's with his friends, he's down at the lake and whatnot. She's calling, when you coming home, the horses are out. He gets home, Scott does, about 11:30. Sees the burn pile's burning, I think says something along, I see Dad's burning the burn pile, or he's burning the burn pile, something like that. Wednesday morning, Scott gets a debit card from his mom because he's going to go play golf. He has this thing on 4th of July that he would play golf, he and his buddies. You're going to hear about his buddies, Philip Ted. That's just what he did. So about 6:15, I think he goes to the door. I think he calls or texts his mom, the defendant, says, needs a card. She comes out, gives him the card, he goes to the ATM real quickly, right down the road, gets some money, comes back to go play golf. He's playing golf with his friends, Chris and family. They go to the Peach Tree road race. Chris and Aston, they then go to the Cracker Barrel, I believe, that morning. Scott goes to the lake on a pool party. He's there in the afternoon and evening. The defendant actually leaves for Lake Lanier to go be with Amanda, Chad Brooks. And you're going to see in things here. You're going to see it's kind of this way. Chad Brooks was the fiance, now husband to Amanda. Amanda Brooks was Amanda Farris. And they go there and hang out, and you're going to hear about that. And at some point, they come back from the lake. Chris drops Aston off at the house on Wednesday night because they want to see and hang out. Now, these times may change, I may get them wrong, but you're going to hear the times as we go through. Wednesday night, July 4th, kids around 11 or 12. They come in, they live out of state, they come in, they want to see everybody, they want to see Big Daddy, they want to ride some of the stuff on the property, they want to do things. It's 4th of July, and the defendant wants the kids to go to bed early. July 4th, 3rd, Tuesday, 4th, Wednesday, 5th, Thursday. The defendant goes to Walmart, checks out around 9:30. Scott spoke with the defendant and Amanda about 11 o'clock that morning. Now she goes and gets some supplies and some things at Walmart. So here's 5th is where it breaks open. Scott has got a connection or connect for some golf clubs. He's going to go to the PGA and get some golf clubs. He sees Amanda up at the house, so he's driving down his driveway from the barn to leave. And he sees Amanda, so he goes up and starts talking to him. And the defendant is asking, have you seen your dad? And it's got to be sarcastic. And he can be hard on his mom. He talks to her. And they kind of go back, and he says some things, kind of sarcastically. We talk about where's dad, things like that. And they start looking for him. Now the defendant starts asking people, are you on the bank accounts or something like that? As in, maybe he's using the funds or the accounts to try to find where he's at. But his Mercedes is at the house and been moved. Now, they would say Gary would kind of go away sometimes and just kind of disappear. Now, he was last seen on Tuesday night by someone other than the defendant. So Wednesday, Thursday. Now they're just starting asking, where's he at? They go around the property. At some point, the defendant's behind the burn pile, and she points out to Scott, gets attention, brings him up there. Something about ghosts. Did you burn ghosts? Scott gets to that burn pile. He was in the military. He's proud he was in the military. He tries to take a leadership role when things break bad, and he finds his own father's remains. He calls 911. You're going to hear. During this time that's going on, a couple of weeks before this, while the cable guy or something was over at the house, Scott saw a .38 pistol. It was in a leather holster of some sort. And he thinks something's afoot. Foul play. Something's not right. He's suspicious of his mom. You're going to hear how he is. And he starts talking about this missing gun. And people are like, what gun? What are you talking about? He starts talking about this missing gun that was downstairs in the basement. 38. Nobody knows anything about 38 or anything like that. But Scott has a suspicion that something's up. He actually says a statement to the effect, did my mom finally do something? When he talks to a friend. Now the defense is going to point to Scott or other people. The evidence is going to show it's Melody. No one else. It's her. And what you have to do is follow the evidence. What does the evidence say? What does it speak? What is the truth? It's not Scott. Law enforcement gets there, they start talking to people, and when they get there, what you're going to see is they get a call to someone in need, emergency services. So they bring the big long back thing you carry people on like a stretcher. They bring all this defibrillator, things like that. They get there, they don't know, they think they're going to find a person back there who had a heart attack or stroke or heat exhaustion or something, pass out. And they get back there and they find nothing but remains. Law enforcement still doesn't really know what's going on in the beginning. They think it was just an emergency. They don't think anything about crime. They start talking to people, and then they realize the conditions of the remains had to burn for a long time. The CSI people at the sheriff's office, they're like, all right, we have to call in an expert, forensic anthropologist, Dr. Gooden. Comes in, and you're going to see what she does. They interview the defendant, they interview Scott, they ask him what's going on. And in the beginning, the defendant, she starts right off the bat talking about, well, Gary had these medical conditions. And then she says his family's got some mental issues. He was suicidal. And she starts laying that foundation of these other things. Any enemies? No. Would kids do this? No. Anything else? No. Anything missing? No, 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 no. She's laying the foundation. These are the pictures when law enforcement gets there. Dr. Gooding gets involved. They start marking it. And then things change. When they get the remains of Gary, we're stipulated these remains of Gary. He's actually identified dental records. He's burned up so bad. When they get there, they find in his rib a 38. They think it's a 380 in the beginning, but it's a 38 special bullet projectile. It's in his left ribs. It's front to back, anterior to posterior. It's in his ribs. So now they think he's medical condition, but he's burned up too bad. Then when they're doing it, that's a bullet. Changes everything. There's no gun. We do not know where the gun is. We look for the gun. The missing gun is evidence of consciousness of guilt. Because if it was a suicide, the gun would be right there. If it's murder, you can't get rid of the evidence. Burn the body, get rid of the gun. They changed it to homicide investigation. Now, this family had problems, and they had disagreements. You're going to hear about dishes being broken. There were several instances of dishes being broken. One time, when she's talking about dishes, you're going to hear the defendant talking about, I had some dishes on top of the car and they fell off onto the ground and broke. Scott's going to talk about an incident where his mom said some very terrible things about his dad, wishing terrible things upon him when she broke some dishes because she was mad when she went down to the basement where he lived and got the dishes. He spilled Mountain Dew or something like that. The man loved his Mountain Dew. Loved it. Cigarettes and Mountain Dew. She got so mad that she broke the dishes. Slammed them. Found it in his trash can. He said the dishes. When she's told.
Okay. Now, no, Texas is going to be home forever, I think. Neat Noodle, I don't think I'm going to go back to Florida. The kids are here. I can't do it. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yes. So already we have some issues here with Melody, being that, I mean, it sounds like they weren't sleeping in the same bedroom, but that he had a very strict routine that he stuck to. And I feel like I would notice if anybody in my household I didn't see for a few days that I always saw every day. And she didn't like report him missing, or I don't know. It's not looking good, Melody, so far, but we'll see what the defense has to say. Okay, here we go.
Talking, the defendant is kind of all things to all people. That's what the evidence is going to show you. It's going to pivot. It's going to pivot. You're going to hear about two people in this case that pivot. She pivots. She's talked to, she's smart, she knows what's going on, they're asking questions. She says, at one point, their marriage is not good. They live in the same household, but they're not living really husband and wife. There are some good times. They try to do some stuff. They're living in separate rooms, separate floors. But at one point, she comes across and they ask, you've been married to him for 38 years. And, if it's that bad, you'll hear about how she describes the marriage and things. Why did you stay with him? I took a vow to him. I took a vow. The evidence is going to show in this case that the defendant is loyal to two people. Very loyal. She's loyal to a man. There's something called prior difficulties. About 10 years before the murder, the defendant had an affair. We believe a guy named Ted Wiley. Ted was in a relationship with Gary's sister. They met, they hung out, and they started doing stuff, and the family knew what was going on. They separated, we believe, because of this. Gary considered divorce, didn't do it. They reconciled, but they lost trust. This is where things change.
Oh, dear.
The whole relationship changed because of this.
We have some scandal. Not only is it an affair, but it's an affair inside the family. Like, it's not a stranger, it's not an outsider, it's essentially Gary's brother-in-law. That's, wow. Okay. That's a twist. All right, here we go. Oh, before I forget to tell you guys, if you are interested in the Gypsy Rose situation, the scandal that's going on and has been going on for this past year, I'm going to be tonight on Patreon. I think I'm going to do it at 8 Central, so that's 9 Eastern. I'm going to be doing like a retrospective all the way from the D is fire to this latest TikTok scandal. Allegedly, apparently, it appears that Gypsy's TikTok account was hacked. And not only did the person who hacked her TikTok, the accused, go live from that account, but subsequently began releasing private messages between, wait for it, Gypsy and Ryan Anderson, whose divorce was final a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. So I'm going to be going through that tonight. So if you're not a member of the Patreon, get over there and join, because it's going to be scandalous and also hilarious, because I can't take Gypsy too seriously. All right, here we go.
Now, Gary worked with a lady, probably had a fling or something with her, not to the same degree, years ago. So they both had their issues. But the degree and the extent and the blatantness of this changed everything, and Gary started controlling finances. Her mindset was, to law enforcement, I took a vow to him. But you're going to hear evidence in a text message between her and another guy that would shrink the world and rule out. A guy that's a neighbor that met her when she would walk, because she would walk all the time. She's tough. In a text message, when she was upset with Gary, believed, she said, my response to his fit he threw was, I hope you die alone in a gruesome death. She's asked by law enforcement, she didn't say anything about hoping he died or anything like that. Terry responds and says, there you go, he's going to push you over the edge. I know, and that scares me. Told him if I'm going to go where can I even see or hear him, it would be in his best interest. You're going to see some text messages, things in this. She portrays this, pivots. But an ever constant in their marriage, tension, an ever constant tension is money. She did not like that Gary would use his money the way he did. It's referred to sometimes by people as a Farris wheel because there was drama, and there was definitely drama. Chris had his issues. Melody didn't really like Chris. Chris would use checking account numbers and credit card numbers and things like that. And he had paid for, coming up to this point, he had paid for a beach vacation. I think we're in a condo or something like that. And Melody was furious. She did not like that Gary was just going to go with him. And Gary basically he'd say stuff, but he'd write the check or he'd say, okay. He wouldn't really do anything. It's his kids, his sons. He could afford it. She said things like, this is the last straw. I've had it, I'm taking measures. It shows that her mindset is this money, this money, this money. And that leads to this. Bullet in his ribs. They go in the house, they look at the house. These are steps going down to the basement. There's blood. There's going to be evidence of blood and cleanup in the kitchen. Her domain.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't point this out, okay? I know a lot of us have been following Sebastian Rogers, the missing, now 16-year-old. He was 15 when he went missing out of Hendersonville, Tennessee. And I just want to point out that even the best housekeeper, okay, and Melody Farris has been described as almost OCD in the way that she kept her house. It was immaculate. But even the best housekeepers, it's so difficult to clean up a crime scene. So when when we're thinking about potential scenarios that could have occurred in other cases, when the cops show up to your house, they might be acting like they're listening. They are listening to what you're saying, and they might not be acting like they are side-eyeing you externally, but internally they are, and internally they are evaluating the scene. And I just feel like if something had happened to Sebastian in that house, as some people believe, that there would be evidence of that. Most of the time there is. It's very difficult. All right, here we go.
Steps. When you get off those steps, if you take off those steps, you can see it. Scott saw some blood on the floor down there. Law enforcement saw it. They go back and spray Blue Star. It's chemical stuff that lights up, and you'll see it. You see those 4, 3, 2, 1 placards there? It's a trail of blood. I've circled this so you can see. Down there is a sofa. There's an ottoman, I believe is the term. And as you get closer, law enforcement found another bullet. We do not know how many times Gary was shot. We know he was shot and killed. We know there are at least 2. The blood trail from the kitchen up there, we believe the evidence is they had an argument. She shot him. He goes downstairs, trying to get away. She shoots him again. Whether he was able on his own to get out those doors or she got him out herself. Top to bottom. No home invasion, no robbery, nothing. Now, that brings us to what we call means, motive, and opportunity. How do you get away with a murder if there's no confession? How do you get away with a murder if there's no video of it? How do you get away with a murder if you try to burn and destroy all the evidence? You don't. When you use your common sense and all the evidence to put it together to shrink the world. And the only reasonable answer is she did it. For example, if they say Scott did it, Scott's not going to shoot us dead when he's paying all the bills. He's a great trainer. It's not going to happen. Let's first talk about opportunity. The reason why you strike the world down, and you will see at the times in this case, when he was killed and when his body was moved, when things are going on, the only person that's going to be at that house, the only person is her. No one else. Just her. Sure, people coming on, but not when things are going on. The other thing you consider is sometimes in the case, with strong evidence is deception, mendacity. When you see that, she's cloaked in lies. You'll see it through the trial. The evidence will show that. Here's what she said about fire.
Hold on.
Context, common sense, the circumstantial evidence.
At some point, be ready. Cloaked in lies is something that I'm going to be using next. I don't know when and I don't know how, but it's definitely going in the vault. Here we go.
Gary liked to set things on fire. He liked to burn stuff. I think about 2008, they had another house, Alpharetta. that they moved from to the farm. He said, I think the backwoods on fire or something at night.
Hey, Abellis, good to see you. Happy New Year, family. Nice to see you all tonight. Check your skies if it's clear. There are incoming northern lights possible at low latitudes. Cool. I'll definitely check that out. I couldn't see them in Florida, but I'm kind of curious if I'll be able to see them here. Also, just speaking of weather, my daughter told me that we're expecting snow next week, next Thursday. Yikes on bikes. I haven't seen snow in, I can't even tell you guys how long. All right, here we go.
Caught on fire. She hated that with understandable concern. That's dangerous. People are scared of fires. I get it. She's concerned about that. And then in the same house before this murder in 2016, I believe, he set the house fire from the basement up, smoking cigarettes in the trash can, left them there, and they caught the house on fire. She went after him. She is strong-willed. She has a backbone. She's tough-minded, and she would tell him how she felt. She told investigators things like this. I tried to put together some of the things you'll hear. She had gotten so scared of fire after that. She had been just scared of the fire. She was scared to death. She figured Gary would burn her house down. They just didn't leave him here much alone because he would, I think she said, break a steel trap or something like that. She told Gary, don't leave the fire. She told Gary, please don't leave the fire. She told Gary, we discussed with dinner, they cannot go off and leave that fire. She told Gary, you got to watch the fire. She said there's no reason with him. He's a lawyer. He was going to burn it or die trying. Slip of tongue, but that's what she said.
Okay.
That was an opportunity. It's going to be her.
All right, so now this is starting to make sense. There was already a burn pile going. Somehow, I guess I had maybe missed that little detail, but it's like a very important detail. Okay, that now I'm understanding, because you definitely need something that's been burning for a while and burning very, very hot. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Abellis. I appreciate that. That was so generous. Thank you. If you guys got a membership that Abellis gifted, please be sure to say thank you. It was very generous. Thank you again. All right, here we go.
Means is how could you have done it? Because the question you're going to have in your mind, and it's going to boil down to this case, is how did that little lady get that big man on the burn pile?
Wow, Lisa. Lisa says Sarah is in prison. Wow. You know, speaking of Sarah, just, because I do have to provide commentary. I was going over her docket a couple of days ago just to see, because the lawyer, made a video which actually is really good and makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate his approach to cases, especially discussing potential appellate issues. It's very easy to understand. And I was surprised to see that one of the motions for appeal was, and this is recent. And hey, Rachel Lee, good to see you, babe. I'm going to go get her mugshot. Give me just a second, Lisa, and I'll show you guys. Okay, so this motion that was filed after Sarah had already had not one, but now she's on her second appellate attorney. I'm so confused because were we not at the same press conference? Owens definitely said, I'm not going to handle the appeal. It's done. It's over. That's what appellate attorneys are for. And yet here he is. Basically what he filed is a request for the transcript of that hearing on the admissibility of Sarah's interrogation video. And so he wants the transcript of that. Oh gosh, I got to go see this mugshot. All right, hold on. Let me push play and then I'm going to go find this mugshot for you guys. Please hold.
She's a cowgirl, farm girl. Her daddy owned a hardware store growing up. She's been around it. She had ropes. leads, straps, tow lines. Did I mention they had a tractor? Means. Necessity is the mother of all inventions. You just commit a murder, you'll be motivated if you have the means. Did I also tell you they had an RTV? She knew I was driving the boat. Wednesday morning, Scott leaves to go play golf about 7 o'clock that morning. She doesn't leave to go to the lake till around 12 something. No one's in the house. She comes back that night to tell the kids to go to bed early. Motive. In my business, there's nothing new under the sun. You don't have to be smart to be an attorney. You have to have common sense. And when it comes to motive, the question you're going to have is, one is, how did she get him out there? That's answered. Evan's going to answer that. Why did she do this? Why would a wife, even for a husband she doesn't like, he has money? Well, she didn't inherit intestate succession. She gets stuff under Georgia law. Even if he died of an accident, she'd probably get more money. Motive. Let me introduce you to a person called Rusty. Law enforcement trying to figure out what's going on. They're at the house, they get consent, things like that. They search a purse, and they find, the things you think you find in a purse, but they find this bank card, credit card, debit card, whatever it is. This financial card. And they find the name Roy Barton on it. And so they're asking him, hey, who's Roy Barton? Well, she says, my cousin, Martha Jane, was married to Roy Barton years ago. In fact, in 2014, that's when this kind of starts off. But she doesn't mention Rusty. She's playing it off as Roy Barton Sr. And he's died. And I just had that, forgot it was there, something along those lines. The Rusty Barton, though, it's not senior, it's junior. And he's a character. He's reluctant. He's talking about the evidence going to show he's going to change. You're going to be introduced to Rusty Barton, who's from Tennessee, and we're bringing him in. I do not know what he will say, but you're going to be able to use the law, which calls prior inconsistent statements. You're going to be able to judge when he said this, and when he says this, and when he says this, what do you believe? A little background on Rusty. He knew them since teenagers. I think he knew her when she was 15. Martha Jane, which is her second cousin, but more like a mother figure. She loves Martha Jane. Martha Jane's a good woman, a godly woman. Martha Jane loves the defendant. They were married to Rusty's father. So Martha Jane, Roy Sr. were married. Rusty and the defendant became romantic in about 2014. She was up there helping Martha Jane. I think she had open heart surgery. In fact, Rusty actually took Martha Jane to Emily's wedding, up close and personal. The affair was going on for about 4 years, 2014, 2018, and afterward. Gary knew about it. There's an email he received that put him on notice about from Rusty's girlfriend. You're going to hear him ask questions about Rusty talking to her, telling her, don't do that. Rusty did internet searches about the wedding rings when law enforcement was talking to him. They would rendezvous in Dalton, which is about halfway from Tullahoma, Tennessee, and Alpharetta, almost halfway exactly. Exit 333. They meet up there. In the beginning it was monthly, several weeks ago, and then it became weekly. She would just disappear. The family knew what was going on. They had suspicions, but they didn't realize who Rusty was until this broke. They kind of have a 6-month plan. Rusty believed, based on what the defendant was telling him, according to Rusty, that Gary has some esophagus cancer or something, bleeding, something going on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Sarah Boone's mugshot from her prison mugshot. It appears in this picture, Sarah is not a happy camper. Apparently in prison, they probably have not appointed her activities director. As we all know, Sarah likes to direct all of the activities all the time. It also appears as if she might have perhaps been given a shower and then let's go. I didn't think it was I uploaded it and I didn't think it was gonna put it on the stream that quick. Like all I did was upload it. I haven't done this on Streamlabs before, so I wasn't sure how it's gonna work. I'm so sorry. I apologize. But yeah, she looks big mad. And I don't know if like they gave her a shower and then they took her picture, or if this was the night before shower, or what is happening here, but it's definitely not it's not flattering. It's terrible lighting and a horrible angle. Yikes. Although I feel personally, this is just my own personal opinion, that the outside definitely reflects the monster that is inside. So there you have it. How do I take this off? Oh, wait, I think I do it like this. There. I figured it out. Sometimes it takes me a minute. Wow. That was, yes, Neat Noodle. Neat Noodle says she looks like one of those doll heads that kids put makeup on and style their hair. Yes, she definitely does. She looks like, and this is going to date me, but back in the day, all I wanted for Christmas one year, I think I was about 5 years old, was the Barbie that it was just the makeup head. It was just the head of her. It was her head and her neck on this stand. And it was, it came with makeup and all the things. That's all I wanted. And it's all I asked Santa for. And I didn't get it from Santa, but my uncle gave it to me for Christmas and I was super happy. Needless to say, Mini Bindi definitely, if you would have looked at the makeup job I gave that Barbie back then, you would have said, maybe being a makeup artist is not in Bindi's future, because it was horrendous. Also, my sister decided that she would get after that Barbie with the scissors, and Barbie had I dare say that Barbie might have had a worse hairstyle than Sarah Boone. I'm just saying. So that's definitely what she reminds me of. And also, shout out to Lisa. Where are you, Lisa? Let me find you up here. Here we go. Shout out to Lisa Peterson. Thank you, babe, for making me aware, because I've been waiting for Sarah's mugshot for quite some time. I've been checking and checking and checking. So Sarah Boone will spend New Year's Eve and the rest of her life in prison. Fantastic. What a way to start the new year off. All right, here we go.
So he was sick and he was going to die, and they kind of had this plan after Gary passed away. Naturally, they would, for 6 months, lay low, and then they would come back and get together. They were in love. They talked like junior high kids in love for the first time, all the time. They had a regular pattern. Law enforcement interviewed Rusty on certain occasions. There's these days where Rusty was interviewed and basically goes from, I don't know anything, and then they press him. We told you in a trial like this, it can be a contact sport. The attorneys can get after it, we can get after it, I can get after it, and they get after it with Rusty. I'll be professional. But they did the good cop, bad cop with Rusty. He didn't want to give up on Melody.
I have to just comment on this. May the 4th be with you, says, New Year, new you, Sarah. New Year, worst do. Good Lord. That's awful, her hair. Yikes. Nobody would ever call her Sarah with the good hair, ever. All right, here we go.
And you're going to hear how they talk to him about this is a death penalty case. You can be arrested for this. You can be what side you want to be on in the courtroom. All techniques law enforcement use to have someone talk. He talks to them. And they use him in the sense of they would get information from him, and then he was willing to cooperate and record some calls and some things like that. But look at this pattern here. He talked for some time. And in June of 2019, he recants something he told law enforcement in July 2018. And y'all familiar with the first 48 hours? In law enforcement, in this business, you get to someone as quickly as they can, because if there's time, they will change. Feelings change. In the beginning, he says one thing. He gives up more and more. It's like pulling teeth. You finally get it out. But he recants. And this is what he recants. The evidence in the case is going to show that When you shrink the world to the only person that had the motive was her. The only person that was home when this could have occurred. Tuesday evening, going in from Tuesday the 3rd to Wednesday the 4th, about 2 o'clock in the morning, law enforcement talks to Rusty and says, all right, what did she say? And he describes it as the last minute, last conversation. And this is what he tells law enforcement. She said, Gary's in the burn pile. No. She said, he is in the burn pile. And I said, what? And she said, he is in the burn pile. I said, do not say another word and do not tell me anything. I do not need to know that. This is what, before the murder's known, anything like that, he's on the phone. The record's going to show that he had 3 or 4 main phone calls during this time. It's going to show that his pattern when he would talk to her was abnormal for this time. There's a phone call, and he says, I talked to her. And this is what she said, he's in the burn pile. This would have been July 4th. Now he comes back a year later and recants.
Okay, so you know how we were talking about Chandler Halderson earlier, good old Chazzle Dazzle? He also burned his parents over the 4th of July weekend. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is about the 4th of July. People be doing some strange things. All right, here we go.
Well, his presence and companionship is with the defendant. Law enforcement gets arrest warrants, goes up to Tullahoma, Tennessee to arrest her, and guess who she's with? Russell.
I'll find out what the deal is with the prison.
She's in jail before she bonds out. There's actually...
Hold on a sec. I'll rewind a little bit back. Sorry. Lisa says, I heard you get strip searched when you leave, come back to the prison, go on a visit. I will be looking into the prison. Don't you guys worry. I will find out all of the things about that prison. Do not worry. All right, let me rewind a little bit back. Okay, here we go.
Law enforcement gets arrest warrants, goes up to Tullahoma, Tennessee to arrest her, and guess who she's with? Russell. After she's arrested, she's in jail before she bonds out. There's actually jail calls. And you're going to hear some of those. And we told you there's going to be calls and things like that. You're going to have to be patient with us.
Jail calls? Did somebody say jail calls? I smell a request coming. Y'all know I love a jail call. All right, here we go.
It's going to be a lot of information. It's just a piece of this puzzle. But at the end of the day, it's going to show the defendant. So it's past, being arrested. He recants the law enforcement. All I didn't say, she didn't say that. I was pressured. I was under duress. I was taking sleeping pills. I was under alcohol. And then she's talking to him on a phone call. And this is just a part. Now, you're going to hear the whole thing later on. But this is what we call consciousness of guilt. The evidence is going to show that she says this, and this is not what an innocent person would say to her lover.
All right, before we listen to that call, Lisa says, I'm disrupting the class. Time to behave. Listen, anytime there is Boone-related news, Boone news or Boone-adjacent news, I want to hear it. I have followed her for a very long time, and I will continue to follow her until I get bored of it. So you can disrupt anytime you want. It's not actually disrupting. It's called informing the host, and the host appreciates it. So thank you. Oh, yeah, we're going to have a roast. Yeah, we're going to figure it out. All right, here we go. Let's listen to this jail call. This jail call, if you guys missed it, is between Melody and her boyfriend, Rusty, I think is what they're saying. I think that's her. I know it's Rusty. I'm not sure of the manner of their relationship, although the way that he framed it seems like it's something untoward. All right, here we go.
Sure.
No. Well, like a long time ago, I just stopped talking.
Right.
I haven't done anything.
I know that, Norman.
But sometimes others, what you keep talking about, you're going to single-handedly hang me.
Speak the truth.
Shelly Bean says some creators are picky about talking other cases in their chat, not this creator, especially if it is Boone. I always have time for Boone. Always. And I always want to hear what her newest, latest shenanigan is. Boy, that was one heck of a mugshot, y'all. I still can't get past that. It's going to be a few days. All right, here we go.
This is what the charges: malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, concealing death, and other making false statements. We are here because Gary cannot be here. And the only reason we're here is by her hand. Malice murder is the unlawful killing of somebody with malice aforethought. It doesn't mean someone's wicked in that sense, or malice in the sense that is hatred or things like that. It is the unlawful intent to kill. And the judge is going to charge on that.
I'll say this. I actually think that malice murder should be a charge that is adopted across the United States, because I think that it is more indicative of what needs to be proven for a first-degree murder case, because that's essentially what it is. It's Georgia's for first-degree murder. But malice murder just says it all, doesn't it? And I feel like I feel like every state should do away with the term first-degree murder. And because I think a lot of people get really hung up on premeditated and not quite understanding the legal definition of premeditation. And so I think that it would be much easier for juries to understand malice murder than first-degree murder. You know what I mean? You can't, yeah, exactly. Lisa, it's like keeping a secret, gotta spill it. You cannot have seen that mugshot. And brace yourselves, we're going to see it one more time because I can't move past it. There you go. You cannot have seen that mugshot and know that alone. You just cannot. You just can't. I'm so glad you shared the class. Thank you, Lisa. Good noodle. All right. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, I think we definitely should use malice murder instead of first degree. All right. I think he's about to wrap it up, and then we're going to hear from the defense, I think. All right, here we go.
One shot could be felony murder if they're fighting and she just reacts. 2 shots and burning. It's depraved. Felony murder, the evidence is going to show that even if she didn't intend to, with malice, to kill him, the intent to kill, that she had that gun in it, just went off. Not the case that she shot him twice. That's still felony murder. It's not the intent to kill. It's the intent to do the underlying felony, which is aggravated assault. Pointing the gun at someone and shooting them. And they die. Even if you didn't mean for them to die. It's still felony murder. There's no malice involved. There's no intent to kill. Aggravated assault is just the shooting. Concealing death of another. The law is designed to prevent certain conduct. And the case that you have before you shows what it's designed to prevent. Not only was Gary Farris murdered, and he has friends and family that watch this, that are here, but they were deprived of him because she burned him up. False statements because she lied to law enforcement about wrestling.
Also,
forget about all this out here.
Also, I appreciate that Georgia, and I know other states do it too, but it seems like Georgia does it more frequently. When a person is a lying liar face who lives on Liars Lane in the town of Liarsville, I think that it's great that Georgia seems to be one of the few states that they don't give a rat's fat kneecap if they have malice murder, or maybe the jury can find for felony murder. Georgia's not going to play with a lying liar face who tells lies.
And And there's two sides to the truth. That is, where you see the deceit and the lies in this case, that points to who did it. When you see the opportunity, the means, and the motive, money, sex, new life, the truth, as sad as it is, as hard as it is that the defendant murdered and desecrated her own husband.
Okay, before the defense takes their turn, I just want to comment on what Shelley Beans wrote. Shelley Beans wrote, I saw on Reddit, Sarah Boone is going where Catherine McManua and Dahlia DiPolito are going, and there's no air conditioning. Now, let me just tell y'all something. No air conditioning in the Floridas is no bueno. It's hot there. It's like right now would be okay. It would be pleasant, except for it's prison. So I feel like because there's a lot of bodies, a lot of people in prison, in one place, I feel like that would make it hotter than it is. But it's not going to be good for her. I think where Sarah's going to, if I'm not mistaken, it's pretty rough. Like, I don't imagine, let's be honest here, just for a second. Let's just take it just a real quick sidebar and just talk about this for a second. All right. Sarah Boone is not good at peopling. Okay. She talks a lot about how George kept her from having friends, but I don't know about you guys. Maybe I missed this part because I was rolling my eyes so hard during her sentencing. None of the friends that she allegedly had prior to George, the ones, that George wouldn't allow her to have, came running back to her in her hour of need to support her during any part of this. So it doesn't seem to me that Sarah actually has friends. Because she just isn't good at peopling. She's just not a likable gal. That's just even without all of the other stuff. Like, even if she had not murdered George, right? If I were just to see Sarah Boone's body cam footage from the times that she had George arrested and then the one time that she went to jail, I still wouldn't like her. She's just not likable. I don't think that Sarah is going to have a good time at all in prison. Like, I think it's going to be super hard for her, which good. She's supposed to be being punished. And I got to tell you guys too, I don't think that Sarah has a snowball's chance in hell of getting a retrial at all. I think that Judge Kranick was prudent. He did his due diligence. He researched case law prior to making the ruling that he did where she forfeited her right. She didn't forfeit her right to counsel. She forfeited her right to the public defender's office. And the fact of the matter is, had he not done that, we would still be waiting for Sarah Boone to go to trial because nobody was going to do what she wanted them to do. Nobody was going to do it right. Nobody was going to do it the way she, how she wanted it done, because Sarah knows all the things about everything. We would still be waiting for her to go to trial. So I don't think that she has, I'll go look, Rachel. I'll go look. I don't think she's got a snowball's chance in hell of a retrial. All right, here we go. Now we're going to hear from the defense.
Yep, that's right.
Would this be a good time for a break, or?
I'm gonna let y'all go and then we'll break after that. Reset. Anybody need a break? All right. I got one taker. All right. We'll go ahead and take a break. It'll be, if one of you are going to, then all the dominoes will fall, so it'll be 10 minutes. So we'll go ahead and take a break. That's fine. All right. We started it a little earlier. We should go take a break. So.
Talk about a few things.
All right, Mr. Ray, you ready to proceed? Ready. All right, go ahead.
Mr. Weaver, as y'all recall, he did work dire, so I didn't get to talk to you too much.
All right. Rachel Lee says, Shelly Beans, she's the only person I have never felt sympathy for, even for a second. It's very freeing. Isn't it, though? It's super freeing. I always reserve, like, even for almost, except with the exception of child killers. In other cases, usually I have some level of sympathy for the defendant, right? But in this one, I'm not even a little, not an ounce. Now, I have to admit, for a brief second, when I saw the pictures at trial of her, I did feel something. Then I saw the videos from her phone, and I remembered her bringing those videos up during her interrogation. And those videos that she took, she truly, in her, all the way down to her whatever soul she's got, at a cellular level, she believes that those videos actually show her as the victim. So, yeah. Shut up, Sarah. All right, here we go.
We kind of broke it up. He got stuck with that task in lieu of me doing opening statements. So my name is Michael Ray. Along with John Luke Weaver, we're representing Mr. Farris. Thank y'all for your service. I know that a 3 or 4, excuse me, a 3 or 4 week long trial is not how you anticipated spending your beginning of fall. So we do appreciate that, and we have worked quite diligently. I've had this case for 6 years now, of trying to whittle it down to what is the most important pieces of evidence to show to you and to present to you, so that you can make a decision in this case. So I don't think we're going to go beyond 4 weeks. It could get done as early as 3, but it might go into 4. But we're definitely going to try to get it moving as quickly as possible. For your jury service, Abraham Lincoln said that one of the greatest services of a citizenship is jury duty. And I think that's very true. It's the equivalent, in my opinion, of voting. Because without you, 16 people we have, or if it was in state court, the 6 people we would have, without you, we couldn't do this. We couldn't do our job. Justice couldn't be done. Justice couldn't be done for Melody without you. So thank you for serving. When you act as a juror, or when you're sitting as a juror, in this particular case, and in all cases, you are essentially the conscience of the community.
Sir, I'm going to have to stop you right there. I think it is probably a bad idea to start your opening statement with saying we might go longer, that we're going to try not to, but we might. That's probably not a good idea, because I would be upset right then. I would be like, ugh, I was okay with 3, but 4 is too much. I think that was a bad idea. I do like that he thanked the jury, but I'm not really sure that the jury needs to hear why they're so important. I think people who serve jury duty, who actually show up for jury duty, obviously know the importance. Just get to the point, bruh. Let's go.
Because you're going to hear this evidence, then you're going to apply it to the law that the judge is going to give you, and you're going to render a decision. Because if you recall, when Judge Cannon was going over the oath with you that he read to you last thing, I know you've taken a lot of it. You took one downstairs when there was 120 of you, and then you took another one when you came in your jury bill, and then you came in with the 16 of you and you took another oath. But in that oath that you took an oath to give a truth verdict according to the evidence. And that's what we're asking you to do. And you heard the judge say that it's your duty to render a truth verdict based on the evidence. And that's exactly what we'll be asking you to do. Now, Mr. Focus, he did a good job in his opening statement. So some of the things are duplicated. Because obviously, when he came in, he didn't know what I was going to say. And when I came in, I didn't know what he was going to say. But I don't want to sit there and regurgitate the same things. But we got to talk about a few things. That one being the indictment. Mr. Focus did a great job going through explaining it. So just kind of to recap what Ms. Farris is charged with. 1, malice murder. That is essentially, to keep it simple, and we'll go over it much deeper at the end when the judge actually gives you the charge, and then we get to argue. What malice murder is: somebody's alive, and I don't want them alive, and they're dead. That's malice murder. Felony murder: I commit a felony act, and it causes that person's death. Like trying to rob somebody, and accidentally shoot them, felony murder. That's what it is. In this case, the felony is the aggravated assault. It alleges that Ms. Farris shot her husband, Gary Farris, and that was an aggravated assault, and as a result of that assault, he died. So that's how felony, murder, and aggravated assault are linked together. Concealing the death of another, it's pretty obvious. There's a little more depth to it when you actually look.
Oh, thank you, Shelly Beans. Shelly Bean says, I'm glad you're doing this case. I was watching a different one when it was live, maybe Sarah Boone. I believe that, yes, this and Sarah Boone's trial were right around the same time. I think Melody's started first. So yeah, but I wanted to cover it, but then I knew Sarah's was coming up any moment, like they were going to be done with jury selection. So I was like, I don't want to start it and then not be able to finish it. So here we are. I'm glad you're watching it with me.
At the actual elements of the offense, but you can imagine what that is. Somebody has passed away and you have concealed it. Making false statements, that's lying to the police. We always say defense attorneys, police can lie to you, but you cannot lie to police. It's actually a crime. So, this case, and you've heard a little bit of it from Mr. Fogus, but you've probably seen your crime show, because I know from board.
We have a Venn diagram. I do love a Venn diagram. I do like graphs and charts. Let's see.
A lot of you watch the podcast, the crime shows, the true crime and all that. And you always see defense attorneys talking a lot of time about there's been a rush to judgment in this case. Rush to prosecute the first person that you can get your hands on.
Hey, Henry, good to see you.
Melody was under investigation in this case for over almost a year, between the 911 call that you're going to hear shortly and her arrest on June 18th of 2019. So there wasn't a rush to judgment, but what we had in this case was different. It was called confirmation bias. And we'll talk more about this in close, but what a confirmation bias
Neat Noodle.
is, you got a belief, and you've got facts. And that belief and those facts merge together. And that's what you believe. Even though you have all of these other facts over here you just ignore.
Hold on, I almost forgot something really important. Okay. So, on Friday, for those of you guys that have followed the Pike County murders with the Wagner family, Angela Wagner and Jake Wagner are going to be sentenced on Friday. Y'all needn't worry. I will stream it. That's all.
Those facts, because that's not in your belief, and that's not in the facts that you want to look at. And that is a confirmation bias. You're going to see from the evidence in this case, from day one, the investigation by Detective Hayes and all the other officers in Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, even the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, everything that was done in this case was tailored specifically to attempt to convict Melody of the death of Gary Farris. One big thing you're going to hear, and you're going to hear it a lot, is Scott Farris. You are going to hear the 911 call here shortly. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to play the 911 call. 13 minutes after law enforcement arrives, Scott Farris is already blaming his mother. He knows nothing. They're not even sure if there is a body on the burn pile. They're not even sure it's Gary. He's already planting the seeds of blaming his mother. 13 minutes. And law enforcement took that into their beliefs. And then they focused their evidence on that. And that is confirmation bias. Now, you heard Mr. Fogus talk about the Ferris wheel, and I'll talk about it too. That this was a turbulent family. The best is, and we'll go through, I have a family tree to go over with you that kind of lays everybody out. But one of them, his name's Chad Bruce. He is now married to Amanda. And Chad Bruce, when he was interviewed, he said, I always called it the Ferris wheel. It's like a soap opera. Something is always going on with Chris, Scott, and Emily. And it's true. All the time. All the time. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But you're going to see text messages. Gary mad that they're blowing money. Chris can't survive on his own, always needing money. Scott, an old man, can't survive on his own, always needing money. Coming to get mama's credit card so he can go get some money out. Emily, with her turmoil, with her new husband, and all that. In fact, you're also going to hear that Gary and Melody had to buy Emily and her husband the house up in Tennessee where they live. There was a lot of turmoil in this family. But jumping on the Ferris wheel, first off, who was Melody? Melody was born in 1960, and she was born in Smyrna, Tennessee. And she had a somewhat unusual upbringing, especially for that point in time. Melody was very little, and they moved from Smyrna and moved to Tullahoma. You already heard a little bit about Tullahoma. It's actually where Melody was arrested. That's where Martha Jane lives. That's where Rusty lives. And I'll talk a little bit more about all those people. They moved to Tullahoma, and Melody and her mother, Kay, lived with Melody's grandparents. And that went on for a few years, and eventually Kay Walker met a man named Carl Walker, and they got married. And then they continued, once they were married, they bounced around a little bit. They went from Tullahoma to Nashville, Nashville to Florence, Florence back to Nashville, just kind of bouncing around this North Alabama, Central Tennessee and back down area, just moving around. Then when Melody was a teenager, they finally settled in Florence, Alabama. It's in the north. You've probably heard of Muscle Shoals. It's right there. And that's where eventually Melody started going to high school, was in that area. And so now you're like in the mid-'70s, and that's actually when Melody meets Gary Farris. They met when they were 16 years old. They didn't go to the same high school. They actually met through mutual friends at the same church, and they began dating. And they dated through high school, and then in 1970, they got married. So at the 1960, I think it was 79, they got married, because I think Melody was 19 years old. Now, they get married, right out of high school, and they both go to the University of North Alabama. Melody's there for about a year, and then she drops out. Gary stays on. So Melody leaves. They're still together. They're still married. And she's working at General Electric Credit and Ace Hardware. Her Kay Walker, her mother, Carl Walker, opened up a Ace Hardware in Florence, Alabama. And that's where Melody worked. And you'll hear a lot about Ace Hardware. She worked there for many, many, many years, helping them out with their business. So in 1980, while Gary's still in school, Chris Farris is born. Now Melody is working full-time at this point at the hardware store. Gary's full-time college student. 1983 rolls around, Scott Farris is born. Melody's still working at the hardware store. Gary's still going to school. Now you fast forward a little bit, Gary's graduated, and in 1988, they have Emily. And at this point, they've moved to Tuscaloosa to the University of Alabama, and that's where Gary goes to law school. So they're living there with the 3 kids while Gary's in law school. And then in 1989, Amanda Farris, who's now Amanda Bruce, she's born. Excuse me. In 1989, the following year, Gary graduates law school, and the family moves to Birmingham, where he works for Burr & Foreman, the same firm that he was at when he passed away. Now, in 1995, the law firm...
Hi,
sent
Bellas.
Gary,
Have a great new year.
to
Thank you
Atlanta.
for
They were
being
trying to
here and
expand
gifting
a different
memberships
office in
too.
Atlanta. Gary's
I
gonna be
appreciate that so
part of
much.
I think when he actually
Happy New
got there in
Year.
95, there was no, there's only him and another person there. It wasn't, this huge law firm, at least here in Atlanta, at that point in time. So 95, you got 4 kids, really ranging from kindergarten to Chris, at that point in time, being about 15 years old. Melody's a stay-at-home mom. She's going back and forth to Florence to help her parents with a hardware store and just living. And an interesting point then comes later in 1997 to Melody is Carl Walker, or who she thought was her father, passed away. And while she was at the funeral, a relative came up to her and told her that, just so you know, Carl Walker's not your father. And so then that leads on to her trying to figure out who her actual father is. And she does. But Carl raised her. It's just an odd thing, to kind of come out of the blue in 1997 at his funeral. Now in 2013, it's kind of the next major event. That is when Gary and Melody buy the Purcell Lane house, where you saw the photos. Mr. Focus's opening of the house. That's when that was purchased, 2013. They move in there, and when they get there, shortly thereafter, Scott moves in. They move into the apartment that is above the barn. Now, all the kids, they also have kids and wives that are relevant to this case. And Scott was married to Jenna. And her name was Jenna Farris. Since Gary's death, my understanding is they have divorced. She has changed her name. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. I haven't talked to her to figure out how you pronounce it. But that is Jenna Farris, was her name. Chris also has other children by another woman, and that is Ella Farris and Addison Farris. Ella, at the time in July, the 3rd, 4th, 5th of 2018, she was over at her friend Emma's house. And Addison was over at Melody and Gary's house on the 4th. She came over after the lake. And I'll go through the timeline. Emily, this is Chris Payne. With the prior difficulties of the family, Chris Payne was a little bit of that. And Amanda is married to Chad. Chad's the one I was telling you about. He's the one who talked about the Ferris wheel and about how there's always something going on, and basically this family is like a soap opera. That is Chad. And Chad also has a daughter by another woman, and her name is Cameron Bruce. Cameron is who there with Addison on the 4th. Now, let's talk about the time. So, you already heard a lot about the burn pile. So, Gary did start the burn pile on July 3rd. We know that. That's a fact. Also, a couple of other interesting things happened. Addison and Cameron don't live in Georgia. Right? Those are Chris's children. Or Ella and Addison do not live in Georgia. They live in Maine. On July 3rd, they flew in to Hartsville, Jackson. Chris picked them up, and they drove up. They came to Melody and Gary's house. Ella had already been dropped off at Emma's house, and Addison came with Chris to see Melody and Gary. And they see both Melody and Gary. Now it is, and I'll go into it more here in a moment, there is some contention about what Addison says, how the house was on the 4th, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Now on the 4th, that is when Melody goes to Lake Lanier. We actually, you'll see, and the evidence will show that we've got a parking receipt. I actually got two things. We've got a parking receipt from Lake Lanier that shows the time that she went in. There's also a ATM slip that was in her car that we got photographs of to show that, her withdrawing money, and that was on the 3rd.
Just a side note, Lake Lanier is a very, very pretty lake. It's a beautiful lake.
And we'll talk about those here more in a minute.
That is all.
July 4th, that is when Addison and Cameron spend the night at the house. Now, Cameron and Addison, the evidence show they have two different versions of events about how it was. Addison's more, it was kind of weird. Melody didn't want us to go outside. She made us go to bed early. Cameron will testify that they did go outside. They went and saw the horses. Nothing was weird. We actually snuck out of the house at 10 o'clock, went to the hot tub, were in the hot tub for a while, came back in, went to bed. Nothing really out of the normal. The reason, and you'll also see that some evidence from Addison. There's a text message to Melody from Addison that says, hey, can we spend the night tonight on July the 3rd? And Melody responds, says, no, not tonight. And we'll have to uncover the reason for that through the evidence. I don't want to speculate here as to what that was. But we do know that that is true. She said, no, not tonight. And she spent the night the following night after they got back from Lake Lanier. On July 5th, that is where things with this case get interesting. The remains are found on the burn pile. Now, that day started, Melody grocery shopping, the kids are there. But to sum it up, what it's really going to show is the girls wanted to buy the RTV. Melody says, go downstairs and ask your grandpa. They called him Big Daddy. Go downstairs and ask him. He's not there. I don't know where he is. So they start looking for him. Eventually, Amanda comes over because what originally the plan was is Melody, Amanda, Addison, and Cameron, they were going to have a day together. They were probably going to go eat lunch. They had talked about potentially going to get their nails done, and basically just having a girls' day together. Now, when Amanda got there, they all began looking around the house. Can't find it. Gary's nowhere to be found. His car's still there. But none of this is super out of normal. Gary was a workaholic. Sometimes he would take Uber so he didn't have to drive. He essentially would be gone, for days. He may come home, he may not. We'll get into their relationship here in a minute. So no alarms were really raised at this point. Now, Scott comes over, and that's where things do get interesting. When Scott gets there, he comes in the house and immediately goes downstairs. After proclaiming to the family something along the lines of, where's the gun? And he goes downstairs, then returns and says, the gun's gone. Now let's talk about this gun. I call it the magic gun, because Scott Farris is the only person to ever see this gun. There's nobody else, only him. You'll hear evidence that he found it in the drawer while he was looking for a remote to help the DirecTV man. And then he found the gun. He gives a very detailed description of it. And that's it. Nothing else. And this was a few months before July when he had the DirecTV. Actually, I think it was the beginning of June, so about a month before is when Scott sees this gun. And he claims he has no idea. He's never seen this gun before. It's very strange. This gun is here, and he didn't know anything about it. But he also didn't do anything about it. Now, 6 years later, this is where Jenna Farris kind of comes in and is interesting. 6 years later, she gives an interview to the district attorney's office claiming she also saw a gun in the basement that you saw in Mr. Focus's opening, where Gary was. However, this gun looked completely different than the one Scott described and is in a completely different location than where Scott said it was. So these are the only two people that have seen this gun, and the guns they described don't even match each other, and one of them talked about it 6 years later. Now, after Gary's remains were found, he was taken down to Georgia Bureau of Investigation Forensics Department to the crime lab. and that's where an autopsy was performed. But after July 5th, 2018, 348 days go by. Melly's not arrested at this point. She's interviewed several times. I believe the evidence will show that, or I believe that the state will be playing those interviews for you, so you'll actually see Melody testifying and answering law enforcement questions. But 348 days pass. And in that 348 days, you'll see evidence they were doing audio testing. What that was is they put a ballistics dummy in the living room of the house, and they shot it with a revolver. And they had members of the Cherokee Marshal's office, as well as some sheriff's office, out there with decibel readers at different points. They were out at the barn, they were out by the road, and they were also in the house, measuring what the decibel was for firing this revolver into this ballistic dummy. And then they moved the dummy downstairs, and they shot it a bunch of times downstairs. And you're going to see all this. They're going to play all the videos of them doing the shooting and recording the sounds and all that. Diving in the lake where the gun was, didn't find anything. Recording Melody's phone calls, and we'll talk more about this momentarily. Rusty, because he already heard about him, agreed with Detective Hayes that he would put some kind of app on his phone and record all their phone calls. And he did it for months. You're going to hear a lot of those. Also, during that 348-day time, Scott and Chris are interviewed several times. Sometimes Scott and Chris are interviewed together, at least on one occasion, and several times Scott is interviewed alone. And then, on June 12th, over 11 months later, the crime lab issues the autopsy report, saying that Gary was the manner of death and the cause of death. Well, the cause of death was gunshot. The manner of death was homicide. And it took them 11 months to issue that report. You'll see, especially when the forensic pathologist who did the autopsy, when he testifies, they weren't waiting on anything. They knew that it was Gary. The forensic, the dental forensics had already come back. It was already Gary. But for some reason, unknown. And you'll see this happens a lot in this case. There's a lot of unknown, and we'll talk about that. No idea why it took 11 months to issue the autopsy report. No idea. But 6 days later, Melody gets arrested. And Mr. Focus is right. She wasn't in Tullahoma, Tennessee. She was up there with Martha Jane. They called her and said, "Hey, we got an arrest warrant for you." And she came and turned herself in. Nothing to hide. Now, John Luke and I came up with this. Actually, well, we didn't come up with it. He had gone. We were having a long day already, so he was done for the day, so he left. And he went up to the drugstore, and there was a girl in there. And the drugstore, I don't know if your office is in downtown Jasper. There's a Jasper drugstore right on the corner on Main Street in Jasper. It's being sold and they're doing renovations. And he went in there and asked them a question about something, and they didn't know it, and they go, sometimes the greatest questions go unanswered. And he was like, "Huh, perfect. Brought me out of my slump. Now I know what I'm dealing with." So that's kind of what we've been talking about the whole time with this case, because so many things you're going to be asking yourself so many times in this case. How did this happen? How did this happen? How did this happen? And nobody knows. You can guess. Nobody's going to know. So let's talk about some evidence and questions without answers. So Melody and Gary. It is no fact. Thank God so.
Okay, before he gets into the evidence too much, that he expects what he expects the evidence is going to show, I do want to talk about this 11-month autopsy report. Now, while it's true, 11 months is a long time, and that they weren't waiting on anything, you don't want to charge okay. I think they were waiting potentially because they wanted to be sure, or it could have, there's all kinds of reasons that they could have been waiting. It is a long time, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I don't think that it's just based on what he said in opening here. I really don't think that it's a case of confirmation bias on the part of the medical examiner. But I do think that, they probably wanted to be sure, because how many times have we heard, and not recently, but probably in the 90s and maybe a little bit into the early 2000s, cases where they thought they had ruled the manner of death to be self-harm, and it turned out that it was actually murder. There's a lot of Black Widow cases, and it wasn't until the Black Widow had unalived, her third or fourth husband, right? That they were like, something might be amiss. So maybe that's why. I don't know. But speaking of the Adelsons, I will definitely be covering Donna's trial. I covered Charlie's trial. I am fascinated with that case because it's so messy and sad and completely unnecessary. I will never understand cases. I don't understand murder in general, but I particularly find it difficult when it is over a custody battle. And by all accounts, Dan Markell was a good dad, and all the issue was over location. Wendy wanted to live in South Florida with her parents near her family, and Dan wanted to be close to his kids. I mean, I don't that the solution to that problem is not murder. And it's most murders are completely unnecessary. I mean, obviously with obvious exceptions of true, not Sarah Boone style self-defense, but true self-defense, obviously. But I never understand it. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to true crime, because I don't understand how people cross the line from thinking about it to actually doing it. I don't think I'll ever understand it. And it will never make sense to me. And yet I'm fascinated, and I guess I keep thinking if I continue to watch, I'll maybe figure it out, but I know I'm not going to, because you cannot rationalize that. It's irrational. All right, here we go.
Melanie and Gary affairs. It is common knowledge that they had affairs. People knew. You can even know the grandkids. The evidence will show that even they had their suspicions and pretty well knew that, there was, affairs happening. Melody did. Yeah, she was having an affair with Rusty. Gary did. He brought, when they moved here in 1995, Angela Phillips was his secretary. He brought her with him from Birmingham to Atlanta. And she was his secretary for 28 years. And she's a bit hesitant to talk about it, but I believe you'll be hearing from her about how they did have a relationship. Gary was also having a relationship, at least somewhat by text and email, with another woman who worked in his building named Joanne Ward or Joanne Hill.
This is a
And you'll
mistake.
also hear Ted Wiley.
Hold on a minute. I think this is a mistake on the defense's part. All you're doing is actually giving your client a motive if you're going to be bringing up that he had affairs, allegedly. I don't think this is a good idea. And I think let me go over here. This general vicinity also might be agreeing
Okay, they had affairs.
that it's not a good look. Look at his face. He's like, bruh, what are you doing? His face says what we're all thinking.
They lived completely separate lives. In the house that Mr. Focus was showing, in that house, Melody lived upstairs. You saw the house, and it may not be in evidence, but you saw it. That place looks like Southern Living magazine, decorated to the nines. Melody did all that. She lived upstairs. Gary lived downstairs. It was just how they'd done it. It had always been that way for years, ever since the 90s. They lived two separate lives. They would sometimes go days without even seeing each other, without speaking to each other. They didn't really talk. They didn't really communicate. They did. They had kids. So they had to have some interaction together. They went and saw Emily and Chris's daughter. Her name's Olivia. She was born. They still did Christmases together. So they did some of these family things together, but for the most part, they were just married people who did their own thing. And Melody did her thing, and Gary did his thing. And it was just what worked for them. Now granted, with the affairs, it wasn't something that was flaunted in their faces. You try to keep some level of discretion. But it was known. And it was just how they lived. Now, Melody's interviews, I expect that you'll be seeing those interviews. And really, the only thing I want to point out of that is Melody is very blunt, very to the point.
Rachel says, whenever I see the criminals we follow begging for bail or insisting in their innocence despite strong evidence, I think all you had to do is not kill someone. Exactly. And like I was saying to Henry, I think that it is only a matter of time before Wendy is charged. I think that I think at some point, I think Charlie will crack before Wendy does, or before Donna does, excuse me. Because, Donna's the one that wanted all of this. She set all of this in motion. And it was all for Wendy. So I do think that if she cracks at all, it will definitely be after Charlie. But I think that when Charlie exhausts his appeals, I definitely think that he's going to start talking. Absolutely. I do.
She's just who she is. She's a hard woman. And that's how she comes off. That's how she is with law enforcement. She's very matter of fact. Here's what happened. Here's what I was doing. That's just how she is. But one of the most important things that she says in her interview, in the very last interview that she ever gave to law enforcement, last thing she ever said to law enforcement was, "I just want my family back." Forensics. There's a good bit of forensics in this case. Some is pretty interesting. I want to talk to you. I didn't want to do any of the photographs, but those blood drops that were talked about by Mr. Fogus, you're going to see that there is blood. Well, let me back that up. You will see there is a substance leading down to the basement. You're going to hear from the GBI Lana Coffee. She sprays Blue Star, which is a substance that is supposed to reflect when it's blood. Well, that's a whole other thing. You're not going to hear anything about that being tested, of whose blood it is, even if it is blood. Now you go down the stairs. They did take a swab, but they find some little drops of blood. Some of them are about as small, or even smaller than 1 centimeter, on the floor. Take a swab of those, send it off. That was Gary's blood.
Okay. I want to ask you guys a question. Does it appear to you that Melody is crying or that she's upset? Because to me, it kind of does, but then also at the same time, it kind of doesn't. And I'm curious about why all of a sudden she's upset, because during the entirety of the prosecutor's opening statement, there was no emotion shown, not even when she was looking at her home. I don't know. What do you guys think? Kind of interesting here how she's crying.
The text
Or
messages
she appears
to Terry
upset.
Braswell, Mr. Fogus said that in his opening, the "Hope you die a gruesome death." It is a text message. We expect Terry Braswell to come in here and testify. We'll be able to cross-examine him about that text message. However, we do know one fact, excuse me, is that text message was sent 2 years before. So it wasn't something that was done in July of 2018 or even June of 2008. Years before. Especially see text message between Gary and Scott about their tumultuous relationship, especially involving money.
I think that's something that we're going to want to pay attention to, is these text messages. It sounds to me, from what the defense is saying, is that it is something that Melody did write in a text message, but that it occurred years before the murder actually took place. And so that is something that I'm always on the lookout for during trials, is when evidence is presented, particularly text message evidence. I like to see the full context of those text messages, because sure, if anybody were to go through anybody's text messages and just cherry pick without full context, you can make any text message look bad if you want to. So I do think that we should be paying attention to the way, not just what evidence is presented, but the way that the evidence is presented, because there is some buzz around this case that the jury may not have gotten this right. And so that's really why I wanted to cover this case, because usually it's very rare obviously we have the Wade Wilsons, the Wade wives. They believe that Wade was completely set up, yada, 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 whatever. But there's a confession many times that Wade talked about what he did. So to me, that's not indicative of a setup. But it's kind of rare that you have somebody who may have an actual innocence claim, not a loophole, not an I that wasn't dotted or a T wasn't crossed or um, something wrong with the search warrant, so then it becomes fruit of the poison tree. I'm talking about actual innocence. And there are people that think that Melody might be factually, actually innocent. So I'm actually I'm curious about this.
Gary said to Scott, I better have my debit card back. Also see Melody and Scott, they used to text back and forth a lot. And recorded phone calls. Gonna hear all those calls with Rusty. Now, also with finances. Now, while that house was very nice, and it was like $1 million house, and it's decorated to the nines. And yeah, we've actually got some of Gary's pay stubs, and after taxes, he was bringing home $20,000. Can't remember if it was every 2 weeks or every month. But that home, mortgage to the hill. Debt high, cash low. Gary stopped working, this family's over. And that's exactly what happened. Gary passes away, you're going to hear first thing that happens to the house, foreclosed. Didn't have the money to pay for it. Cars, gone. Everything was in storage. So while they made a lot of investments, had a 401k with his law firm, 401k, profit sharing with the law firm, insurance, things like that. But all those weren't successful. Where was Gary shot? When you're good, testifies. She's going to have a drawing of a skeleton. Show the ribs. It's going to show he was shot somewhere here. Is it the front or in the back? Not going to be able to tell you that. Angles, don't know. No idea. Also, that's just where was he shot in the house. Where was he shot in the house? Because evidence is going to show while there may be some blood, and that was not tested, so we'll call it maybe blood. Upstairs in the living in Melody's portion of the house, we'll call it, and a trail leading downstairs to Gary's portion, we'll call it. You're also going to get evidence from, most likely from Amanda, how a few days before July the 3rd, 4th, 5th, that Gary had been bitten by one of Melody's dogs ankle and was bleeding as he walked down the stairs down to his room so that he
Okay.
But where was he shot?
I mean, you're not disputing that he was shot. You're disputing that Melody is the person that shot him. Is that what you're disputing? Because I'm kind of confused here. I mean, I guess you're, bringing up a lot of reasonable doubt. So we'll just have to keep going.
No idea. How was he put on the burn pile? You're not going to hear about that either. You're going to see photographs of tractors. You're going to see photographs of RTVs. Probably of horses too. But you're not going to hear anything about Gary being moved on one of those vehicles. You will hear, though, that there was one drop of blood that was Gary's on the step getting up into the tractor. There's nothing in like the bucket. One drop of blood on the tractor. Where is the gun? Don't know that either. Now, you're going to see photographs of guns. There were guns on the property. There was no .38 found on the property. I think there was an old .32 caliber that was found on the property, but we know that wasn't the gun in question. But what you will find is that Scott has quite a bit of .38 caliber ammunition in the barn, and in fact, he's got it in his bedside table. But yet he claims, and when he testifies, I assume he will be claiming the same thing, that he does not own a .38 caliber pistol. He will claim that he owned a .357 Magnum at one point, but that gun had been stolen years ago, and he didn't have anything that would shoot a .38. Yet he has at least one full box of .38 special ammunition and a loose several other various brands of 38 Special in his nightstand.
Uh-oh, that could be a problem. Because why would you have ammunition for a firearm you don't own?
You'll see all those. You'll see the photographs of those. But where is the gun? No idea. Where are the bullets? They're in Scott's house. Scott's behavior. From the very beginning, like I told you, from the very beginning, Scott is saying, Melody, Melody, Melody. I thought you would do something. Leading law enforcement down this trail. You see all that. It's going to be very evident of what his intentions are regarding his mother. He does it in his interviews, and he's going to do it on the stand here too. I would suspect that's exactly what he's going to do. But the most important thing is just in that few minutes of getting there, he's already talking about guns being missing. He's the only person that is seen. Then he goes out looking. You're also most likely going to be seeing, there's a trail camera that was, if the burn pile was where I'm standing, was kind of, don't exactly know how far, but down closer to the lake. Kind of pointing out that they had a deer feeder down there. Take pictures of the animals. And you're going to see that coming up to that camera, for some reason, and I don't think we'll ever get a straight answer, we don't know why those photographs got deleted. Or actually, who actually deleted them. Now we know because they were recovered. So we know what photographs were on them, but we don't know of who deleted them. Now, you heard the judge talking about, before you took the oath, about what reasonable doubt was. And he said that reasonable doubt was a doubt of a fair-minded partial juror honestly seeking the truth. Then he also went off for a little bit and talked about if your minds are unwavering, unsettled, or unsatisfied, that is a doubt to the law. And with that, you should acquit the defendant. So essentially, when you're looking at this case, whenever we get done, when you're evaluating this case and you're evaluating all the evidence, you've got to say, has the state proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, what a reasonable doubt is that you have a doubt that you can put a reason to. And it's reasonable. It is a reasonable doubt.
I agree, Henry. I agree.
The high burden for the state. I'll go over this and close. I know it's like how it shows that even if the state can get to reasonable doubt, no, that's still an acquittal. That's still not guilty because they have to go beyond reasonable doubt. And remember, that is just a doubt for which you can put a reason. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you have, like in this case, when you have questions that go unanswered, when we're talking about unanswered questions of how did we get to the burn pile? Where's the gun? Where's the bullets? Where are these simple things that we should be able to find? And why, when we find them, they're in a place that, well, we don't like where that's going. Law enforcement saw the bullets over in the barn. Yeah, here we are with Melody charged with malice murder, felony murder, ag assault. Nobody heard anything. You're not going to hear anything about this case that Melody heard, or that anybody heard Melody shoot him, or that she admitted to somebody that she shot him.
I mean, I have to say that those are good. I mean, you need to you would think you would want to answer those questions, right? And as far as an opening statement goes, they're not evidence, so you can't. The jury's not really going to be using those as, bless you, babe, as evidence. You can't. They don't use those during deliberations, but if, as put forth by the defense, this is something that the defense has said already, and so is the prosecution. They both seem to agree on the fact that Gary, the victim in this situation, was generous with his money, and the people that he was the most generous with his money were his children, and specifically Scott. So what motive would he have to get rid of his dad? I mean, if it was in like the heat of a crime of passion where they were in an argument about something and it happened, don't you think that Melody would have heard that? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's still a messed up scenario, though. Like, even if, let's say, for argument's sake, that Melody Farris is factually guilty, she has an actual innocence claim, the fact that it might be her son, it's still an awful crime. First of all, a man is dead and at the hands of one of his loved ones. That's messed up. The family would, I can't even imagine what the holidays would be like.
You did hear from, and you'll hear from him again, from Mr. Bart, from Rusty, that he said, Melody said he's on the burn pile. And what Mr. Barton changed, and he'll be under direct and cross-examination in this case, is what he changed. He didn't change what she said. He changed when she said it. So he said, yes, Melody said they found him on the burn pile, not on the 4th. It was on either the 5th or the 6th when she was talking to him, saying, hey, they found Gary dead on the burn pile. Rusty didn't change what he said. He told him when he said it. He got it wrong, and he corrected himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you have unanswered questions in a case like this, really the only answer is not guilty. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fogus, you got this is ready.
Please, the first one is by previous stipulation.
All right, go ahead.
All right, now we're getting into the witnesses, you guys. But just have a little palate cleanser before we get into the witnesses. Let's just take a moment to hear from our.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash. Yeah.
Yeah. So please do me a favor and give your girl a thumbs up. I appreciate it very much. All right, here we go.
Y'all can decide whether y'all want the mobile lectern to stay there or whether y'all want to get rid of it. The last trial, everybody used both.
That's good, Joseph. We keep it. Now, the first exhibit is going to be, it's labeled 911 for 911 call, and it is July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. July 5th, 2018 at 12:47 p.m. It's about 2 minutes and 21 seconds, and it's Scott Farris. And Judge, I see the name evidence this time by stipulation. All right. May I publish it? It's 911 and then 1 in parenthetical.
Okay. Sure would be offered about you.
I'm not just kidding.
Go ahead. No, good.
Y'all agree to the foundation?
Um, 2155 or so, point. My father has come up missing, and we just searched the property. It's a small farm, and I just found something near the farm that doesn't. He was burning brush. Now there's nothing to follow that. It could be him. I don't know.
Okay. All right, sir. What's Purcell Lane run off of?
It's right off of Birmingham Road.
You said 2155 Purcell Lane, that's correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is your name?
Scott Farris, Farrs.
What's a good callback number for you, Scott?
404-861-2667.
How old is you said your father?
Yes, sir.
How old is
he just turned 63 on the 68. Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm calling you to say that we've been walking around looking for him, and I went where the fire's still smoldering. And I'm ex-military. I was deployed to Iraq. I've seen what burned up bodies look like, and this looks like a body.
Okay. All right, sir. I've got him on the way out there for you. I'm going to send the police and the fire department out there. Just try and leave everything that you can, the way you found it down there, and we've got them on the way out there for you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else I can do for you, sir?
No, that'll be it.
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Say off Sarah Love. Sarah Love.
Also, you guys don't forget that tonight on Patreon, I'm doing an end of the year roast of old Gypsy Rose Blanchard. We're going to go through her release from prison all the way to this latest TikTok scandal. So I hope you guys will join me over there. It will be fun. And I will keep it brief enough where you get enough of a laugh that you can do it while you get ready to go out for New Year's Eve if you want to.
Stretch.
Let's see what they're catching. You saw this where from the evidence about the this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable.
Those chairs ain't comfortable, sir. You can't be comfortable in that chair.
State your full name.
Yes, tonight, Shelley
Sarah
Beans.
Jane Love.
And where do you work? What do you do?
I'm a firefighter paramedic with Cherokee County Fire and Emergency Services.
What's
Central,
your rank
9
there?
Eastern.
Captain.
Tell the jury how long you've been doing what you do.
Well, I've been a paramedic for 28 years, and I've been with the fire department for almost 22.
And what is I know there's paramedics, EMTs, and firefighters. What are they all, and how are they different?
So there's an EMTI, which is like a basic, the lowest level you can work on an ambulance, and then an advanced, and then a paramedic.
And do you have a certain area that you work in the county, or is it just, how does that work?
I don't know what Nightbot is doing. I
You
can
ever had
see
testified
it.
before at a trial?
I'm sorry?
You ever had to testify before at a trial?
Yes.
And you know why you're here today?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention now back to
Here, let me try this
July
one.
5th of 2018. It was a Thursday. I think y'all responded around right around 12:59 p.m. to the residents in this case. Is that right?
I don't have the date and times in front of me, but yes, we did respond.
Do you remember? Was it midday, afternoon?
Afternoon, I believe.
Okay. If I told you around 1 o'clock, any reason to disagree with me on that?
No.
And do you remember where you went to? Where the property was?
Yeah, it was in the area of Freeholm or Alpharetta.
2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Georgia.
Yes.
Is that the residence?
Yes.
Just a little bit. Put the mic in front of you, you talk over it, it'll be fine.
Okay.
And this was the Farris house. Is that right?
I believe so, sir.
And was the house where you went and where all this occurred? What county was that in?
Cherokee County.
Do you remember what you got called out for?
We got called out for a person fell into a fire.
Just a person falling into a fire?
Initially, yes, sir.
Now, as you were heading out there, tell the jury just kind of what did you pack up, what did you take, and what did you expect to see?
Well, we responded with the fire truck and the ambulance. I was on the ambulance that day. We were originally dispatched to a person falling in the fire, and then it became a person down call, which means that they need resuscitation.
It means what? I'm sorry.
They need to be resuscitated. They don't have a pulse or not breathing.
As you were going there and going to the scene, what did you think you were going to find?
We were going to find a patient that needed to be resuscitated.
Like a person?
Yes.
Maybe just falling out or something?
Yeah, just from the information, he fell in the fire.
When you got there, do you remember seeing anybody from the family, a son or not?
Yes, somebody met us at the end of the driveway. The driveway was pretty long, so the guys on the fire truck were getting onto the ambulance with us to ride in, and there was a gentleman there at the end of the driveway said that he would show us where the body was at.
Were y'all there first before law enforcement, the sheriff's department?
I believe so, but they wasn't far behind us.
And how long did it take you to get there from the call? The call came out about 12:47. Did it take you very long?
I don't believe so. I don't have my report, so I don't know exactly how long.
Was it a short drive?
Fairly short, yeah.
And when you arrived, just kind of tell the jury what you remember seeing and what was going on.
So initially we stopped at the driveway, picked up what we found out later was the gentleman's son. He was telling us that he had been in Afghanistan and he had seen burned bodies before and he knew what they looked like, and I was trying to get information about if he was, breathing, if he was alert at the time, or, more information about the patient. And he just kept saying that over and over. And then
Okay, so this would be a good time to ask you guys. Now we've listened to the 911 call, and now we have one of the paramedics on the stand. And I want to know what you guys think of Scott saying over and over and over that he was in the military. He was in Afghanistan. He knows what a burned body looks like. I want to know what you guys think about that. And then I'll tell you what I think about it. All right, let's keep going.
when we got to the house, he rode in the back of the ambulance. When we got to the house, he walked us around to the back side of the house to a large burn area.
When you first met with, who's going to be Scott, we believe, the son,
Yeah.
when you first met with him, when you were talking to him, were you trying to ask him questions to see if he would answer him?
I was just trying to find out what kind of condition at the time we assumed a patient was going to be in. If it was in a cardiac arrest or just treating a burn patient, or what we were going to find when we got around to the back.
Was that because you thought there was going to be a human being there? Mm-hmm. And did you, when you were asking him questions, was it his state of mind? Was he telling you stuff? Was he able to tell you things?
He just kept saying over and over that he knew what a burned body looked like, and I was asking more like, was he breathing, and was he conscious? And he just kept saying he knew what a burned body looked like.
Now, Madam Post Witness.
Go ahead. I don't have to ask.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Now, we've marked exhibits.
Okay. Now, you can, for me personally, I can take this testimony two ways. It does appear on the surface that this is extra, additional, unnecessary information. If somebody's asking you if the person that you called 911 about is breathing, are they conscious, etc., these are all standard first responder questions, and your response is constantly, I know what a burned body, a burning body, or a burned body looks like. On the surface, that can seem very extra. Instead of just saying, no, he's my dad. I think it. This person is not breathing. This person is not conscious. This person is not even a whole person, right? I am also the other way I see that is that I think it's possible that what he's trying to express to the paramedics is basically, y'all are not necessary. There's no resuscitation that's going to be going on. And it's quite possible that if he thought that the body on the burn pile was potentially his father's, that level of shock might be why he continues to say, I know what a burning body looks like. I know what, you know what I mean? Like, it's a way of him saying, y'all are not necessary. There's not going to be any CPR. There's no medical aid that you can render. Oh my gosh, mini noodle. Top chat'll get ya. So I think that, to me at this point, I can see that information both ways. I can see this testimony both ways. I will definitely need more, obviously.
A little differently in this case. Instead of one through whatever it is, we've met and marked them by numbers. Go ahead and take those if you haven't. Look at those. You had an opportunity to look at.
That's the way I'm leaning, Bogart, is that it's shock.
Go ahead and look at those and see if those. Now, it's going to be labeled aerial, as in aerial photographs. Go ahead and look at 1 through 14.
Rachel, if you rewind about like 5 minutes, the 911 call is played right before she takes the stand. It's real brief. It's not very long.
Okay.
Are those photographs, aerial 1 through 14, do they fairly accurately represent the area that we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
This time I tend into evidence aerial 1 through aerial 14.
No, I do this.
Judge, after we didn't, I just published what I asked for permission.
Hey, Sprinkled Donut, good to see you. Happy New Year.
You see on the screen there, this is aerial 1. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
If I look at the screen, this is just showing from the courthouse to the scene. Can you tell the jury about how many miles it is, approximately normal drive, how much time?
From the courthouse, 34 minutes and 60 miles.
About 34 minutes or 16.5 miles, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And Purcell Lane.
Hold
what
on a
area of
minute.
town
Now, I
is
got
that?
to say something here. Now, before I moved to Florida, I did spend some time in Georgia. And I have to say that I see here where it says 34 minutes. Okay. I think that is Google Maps being very optimistic, because having spent some time in the Atlanta metro area, nothing is quick. Even things that should be quick are not quick in Georgia. Like, I remember just driving, and in Texas and Florida, people will either do the speed limit or over the speed limit. Even though there is a posted minimum speed limit sign, I've never actually seen anybody drive the posted minimum speed, except Georgia. I've never seen drivers on a highway intentionally going the minimum speed. Like, in other words, they're going the minimum speed because it's traffic, right? You have to. There's nothing you can do, right? You don't want to go the minimum speed, but you have no other choice. In Georgia, I've seen people intentionally on purpose choose to go the minimum speed. So to me, that makes it seem like everything took longer than what Google Maps said. I have to say, I don't think 34 minutes is accurate. That's just me.
That'd be the northeastern corner.
And what is that? What type of homes and things are out there? Nice homes?
Yes, fairly large homes.
Expensive area?
Yes,
Affluent
sir.
area, I guess is what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir.
And where were you coming from when you went there?
So where it says Freehome on the map and Highway 20, our station is about very close to Highway 20 at that where you would have turned off of Highway 20. Our station's right there.
This is aerial 2. This is showing coming down the road Purcell Lane as you come down Purcell. And you, was the driveway where you picked up Scott, was that at the kind of right there where Purcell Lane is and the driveway meets?
Yes, sir.
So do you remember the long driveway going up?
Yes, sir.
So did you meet Scott down here or up in the driveway? Where was it?
At Purcell Lane. The fire engine's too big to get down the driveway. So the ambulance stopped there, and the crew from the fire truck jumped on the back of the ambulance.
So everybody hopped in the ambulance and went up the driveway?
Yeah.
Aerial 3, this is just an overhead Google Maps showing the property is. How would you describe
Gotcha,
this property?
Rachel.
You say,
Yeah,
this is-
I'm
this
not
is how the
really.
property- this
Hold
looks
on.
like.
I'm going to talk over this. Hold
Mm-hmm.
on, just a
It's
minute.
very-
I will. I'm not super inclined to think anything is amiss just listening to that 911 call. I only bring it up because it appears. I mean, I know that there's going to be an alternate suspect presented by the defense, and I think that alternate suspect, by all appearances, is Scott.
2018?
Yes, sir. I was more or less looking in the back, talking to the son, so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the driveway. But yes, sir, that is the.
As we look at aerial 4, this photograph on the left of the screen is this big long driveway. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
As aerial 5, as you move up the driveway, is it correct to say that there's a road or driveway that goes to the right to the barn, that y'all went straight up to the house?
Correct, sir.
And then aerial 6, is this an aerial showing the pond?
Yes, sir.
Is this the house behind the trees here?
It appears to be. Yes, sir.
How about that? Aerial
Yes, sir.
7?
Yes, sir. That is the house.
Aerial 8, just another overview. Now, when you parked, and again, this is about a year later, but as you walk, did y'all walk around as where my mouse is on this item that's here, this white item? Did y'all go around this side, this left side, if you were facing the house?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
And then as you came around, did you come over to the back side where the burn pile was?
Yes, sir. We did.
Tell the jury, when you arrived expecting to see a person, when did things change for you? What did you see and what changed it?
As we're walking up to the burn pit, you could see some long bones. I saw a foot and the skull.
And when you saw that, what in your mind was going on? What were you saying to yourself?
I was trying to make sense of it. It's not something you would typically see. So I was like like the skull, I thought maybe it was a rock. So I kind of moved a little bit and put it back the way I found it. And the foot is probably what stands out the most is the foot.
What equipment did you have with you to expect to find a person?
So the guys from the engine grabbed the bed and the equipment, the cardiac monitor, the jump bag, and they were coming behind me, and me and the son were walking, a little bit ahead of them.
When you got there, what was found and what happened?
Well, when I saw the bones, I advised dispatch that it wasn't a person down. It was a signal 48, which means a deceased person, and then to have the coroner en route.
Did anybody touch the bones or do anything with it?
Only like I said, sir, the top of the skull looked like it may have been a rock, so I kind of lifted it a little bit and then put it back where it was when I realized it was definitely the skull.
So things changed from a person being held to a body, basically?
Correct.
Remains? Is that
Yes, sir.
fair? Did you Did law enforcement, were they quickly on the scene at that point? Did they come up?
Yeah, I remember them being right behind us.
And I know you've probably seen a lot of things in your career, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
But did this shock you?
Yes, sir.
That states aerial 11 just showing this is a photograph showing the house in relation to the pond.
Yes, sir.
Aerial 12 going back over the pond to the arena, the sand pit. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
13 just marching back down the driveway, leaving.
Yes, sir.
And then 14 just going back to the road.
Yes, sir.
But now you've had an opportunity to look at some, law enforcement was able to do some drone videos about a year later in June of 2019. Did you have an opportunity to look at those drone videos?
I did.
Just at this time, and were those videos fair and accurate as you know the property to be when you saw it?
Yes, sir.
I tend to have now aerial 15, aerial 16, and aerial 17, which are 3 drone videos done by the sheriff's office about a year later.
All right, any objections?
Go ahead.
All right, they're admitted.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to let this one play. It's about 2 minutes and 10 seconds long. Just may we dim the lights or it's not fine?
Do the lights in the bed. Split the switch, right? Flip the switch down.
Wow, this is a beautiful piece of property. So sad. The fog situation like in Georgia or just in general? Bogart, which fog situation? How far we've come with technology. I remember the aerial photographs that were taken literally from a helicopter in the West Memphis 3 case, and they're so blurry, you can't hardly see anything. But this, I mean, look, it's like you're there. It's like you're seeing it in person.
We play now aerial 16, which is about 7 minutes and 13 seconds long.
Oh, really? Bogart? Well, we ain't got no fog here in the Texases. Well, not in my part of
Well, that's
Texas
the one along.
anyway.
You went around this as the drone was going. This left side is kind of how y'all approach the burn pile.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's a bummer. Sprinkled Donut's getting all the fog. Well, stay safe, babe. Yeah, that is a lot of pods. Whenever like weird stuff happens with the weather, you know, that guy from Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens. I always want to say that when there's stuff that's weird with the weather. Now, when I left Florida, we were foggy. We had gotten a lot of fog. Actually, it was pretty foggy there at the beginning of December. I refuse to look at the temperatures now because I know I'm going to be like, oh, I miss that. But I don't care. I would rather be freezing and be with my grandkids than be warm and be without them. So it's a completely good trade. It's fine. I'll get used to the cold again. I mean, I lived here for most of my life, so just going to take a minute. I wish that there was some type of narration to this, maybe some background music, because I'm not exactly sure.
This is about a year later, was that area of the burn pile?
Okay,
Yes, sir.
now I understand what we're supposed to be looking at here. Okay. Because at first I wasn't getting it. Wow. That's so sad. Ooh, how do you know if you are Rh negative? I know that my blood type is O positive. I don't know what that means though, for Rh negative. I guess that is, I don't know. I need help, Nate Noodle. It's been a minute since I've been in biology class. And even when I was supposed to be going to biology, it was after lunch, so I didn't make it most days. Hey, Low Red, good to see you. Happy New Year. I mean, Lisa, there's something to that. You know, there's an old saying,
Kevin Love on State's Exhibit Aerial 16.
whoever
roughly
talks
right at 7
walks.
minutes. Is this a view showing from the burn pile to the house?
Yes,
So,
sir.
Next is State's Exhibit Aerial 17, which is 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Another drone video.
do you guys think we're good? Should we skip through the drone footage? I feel like we've seen it. Let's get to some more. Let's get to the actual testimony here. I mean, the property is huge. We're watching the Melody Farris trial. This is drone footage.
After you
In the
realize
Melody,
that
hold on, let me
turn
push
this thing over too
pause.
long.
We were just watching drone footage of the property of Melody and Gary Farris. This is the Melody Farris trial. She's charged with murdering her husband, Gary, and then burning his body on top of a burn pile. And that we're watching day one testimony. All right, here we go.
Yes, sir.
No further questions, John.
All right. Anything?
Hey, Becky, Happy New Year.
Replaying the video.
There you go.
All right. Flip them back up, please.
Okay, so then I'm okay. So am
Good
I,
afternoon, Captain Love.
hold
My name
on
is
a
John
minute.
Weaver, and I represent.
Hold on. So am I derived from aliens? Let me look at what you wrote before that. I don't know. I'm fine either way, whether I'm derived from aliens or I'm not. I'm cool. I'll be fine either way.
Melody Farris in this matter. And it is Captain, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So
Yes.
on that day, you responded with who?
Yes, Little Red. She did. Blame
Me
her
and
son.
my partner, Kenny Holland, were on the ambulance. On the fire truck was Jacob Kenny and Megan Hamilton.
Okay. So you got off of the ambulance.
Yes.
And you get, again, the fire truck could not make it up the driveway.
Correct.
Why was that?
Because the weight of the fire truck, we don't typically drive the fire truck on driveways. If it's a long driveway, they'll either have to walk or they'll jump in the back of the ambulance with us. And on that call, they jumped in the back of the ambulance.
So you get out, you got your pack, you don't really know what you have at the time, as you testified to earlier, but you walked up the driveway and you encountered, who did you encounter?
So at the end of the driveway, when we stopped and the crew from the fire truck was getting on, there was a gentleman at the end of the driveway telling us that he could show us where at the time we thought a patient was.
Okay. Now, you stated earlier that he kept saying to you he knew what a burned body looked like.
Correct.
And that's something that's resonated in your memory 6.5 years later.
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Scott Farris, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. What was his demeanor?
He was, I guess the best word is just panicked.
Okay. Do you remember anything else? Did he say anything else to you about where the location of this was?
That he would show us. He said it was a pretty good walk. He would show us where it was.
Now, were there any other family members close by as this was happening?
I did not see anyone else.
Did you speak to any of the other family members on the property?
No, sir.
Did he mention to you or to anybody that worked with you that day, did he ever bring up anything about a missing gun?
No, sir.
Right. But how many times do you think he said he knew what a burned body looked like?
Probably 2-3 times when I was asking questions when we were still in the back of the ambulance.
Right. Do you remember anything else he said?
I don't remember when he said it, but he said his dad had been missing for a couple of days and they'd been looking for him. But that wasn't unusual for him to be missing, I guess.
He said that to you?
Yes.
And that's when he walked you back there himself?
Yes.
And that was just as we saw in the video, back down from behind the house. What would you say the grade on that piece of property was?
It was a little bit of an incline, but not too steep.
All right. And how far behind? I mean, because videos and pictures certainly don't do justice necessarily to being there in person. How far behind the house would you say that burn pile was?
I couldn't tell you. Because, I mean, at the time, I'm not thinking about how far I'm walking. I'm just, like, walking, trying to get some information and thinking about what we're going to do.
So generally speaking, the images that we saw today were taken roughly a year later. You didn't take those pictures, correct?
Correct.
Right. But compare and contrast the state of the burn pile that day, July the 5th, 2018.
Just in reference to my report, I estimated it was probably about a 6 foot in diameter. I don't remember, I think 3 feet maybe high.
Was it still smoking? Could you tell? Was it hot?
I don't remember seeing any smoke. And we didn't bring our thermometer down there to check because we were on an EMS call and we were thinking, get the patient, go to the hospital.
See, this is interesting to me because I'm not sure why this happens, right? Why they were under the impression, I guess maybe because it kind of reminds me of Sarah's 911 call where Sarah's trying to explain the situation to the dispatcher and the dispatcher has her doing CPR, which she absolutely is not doing, but lying and saying she is. So, I mean, I understand that they listen to what the caller says, but maybe they take it with somewhat of a grain of salt. But why then, when they realize that that's not what was needed, did they not change tactics? I don't know. Just interesting. Just something I thought of. Doesn't mean anything. It's just a question I had. It's not going to prove guilt or innocence one way or another.
that? Now,
Just
did
a
you have any
question.
gloves or anything like that on?
Yeah, we had medical exam gloves on.
Yeah, let me know.
So I imagine that you wouldn't have thought it was a very hot fire if you would reach down and touch it.
No, sir, it wasn't.
Right, when you touched what was a remain, was it hot?
I don't remember it being hot, not like to burn me. It was warm outside, so I mean, it wasn't like it was on fire currently or enough to burn me, but it was, I guess, ambient temperature.
So then how did the burn stop?
I expect that the state is going to. I keep thinking there's a map up there, but there's not. There's a number of expert witnesses that I believe the state's going to call, kind of talking about how they have mapped out the burn pit, the burn pile, where certain things were found within the burn pile. But you stated that you picked up what I believe you believe to be the skull of Mr. Farris.
I didn't know who, but yes, it appeared to be a skull.
But you picked it up, yes?
I didn't pick it up.
Okay.
I lifted like the corner and let it lay back down to where it was.
Immediately laid it back down?
Yeah, I did not move it.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't pick it up to move it.
You didn't pick it up, hold it in your hand?
No, sir.
You just
I just
rolled
made
it
sure
and
it
put
was.
back.
I just made sure it was like not a rock, and there was,
And that would have been when you made the signal 48?
Yes, sir.
Was Scott Farris standing there when you were doing that?
I assume so. I mean, he walked us back there, and he was still back there when we were leaving. I don't think he left.
Any other family members around?
I do not remember any other family members.
Did you ever remember speaking with my client, Melody Farris?
No, sir.
And did you see her even?
Right, Bogart. What about the smell?
When you walk
Listen.
down there, and I believe it's
Hold on, Mr. Defense Attorney, ma'am. That's my question too, is the smell. Like, I get that the smell would not be detectable, just because they lived, in a secluded area, right? So it's not like you have to worry about neighbors or anything. But just when the paramedics and first responders are walking up to it, and even Scott himself. And then if you think about it, like, okay, how did Melody, because it's not, I mean, obviously the burn pile was not like right up next to the house, but it's not like it was miles down in the forest either. Do you know what I mean? It was close. So it just creeps me out thinking about, like, how do you just chill in your home knowing that that's what's going on? I don't know how people do stuff like this. I really don't.
So take your time to answer this question, because all of Cherokee County responded following you after your signal 48. Did you ever notice any tractor marks near the fire?
I did not notice, sir.
All right. Did you notice any RTD tire treads, like a tire tread, a car tread, any kind of a tire?
I did not notice.
Okay. How about, could you see where horse hoof marks would be somewhere around the fire? Could you see any of that?
I didn't notice anything like that.
All right. Any tools or implements for the fire?
I didn't notice. I wasn't looking for stuff like that either.
Yes, ma'am.
But I did not notice.
Okay. Anything else you would remember about that day?
No, sir.
How long did you leave after the signal 48?
Pretty quickly after I called and told them that it was a signal 48 and law enforcement was there, we turned the scene over quickly as possible, especially for the ambulance to get back in service for, the next emergency call. So we left pretty quickly.
I may have one brief second, Your Honor.
Oh, hurry up.
That's all I have, Judge.
Can you redirect?
See, they always do that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, you may call.
Hold on a minute. It builds us up builds the people watching us to thinking that something else is about to be asked, right? When they say, "Can I have a brief moment, Your Honor?" This happened nonstop by the defense in Boone's trial. And then they're like, "Nope, nothing further." What'd you even ask for?
That's fine. All right, call your next witness.
This is time to take off Robert Raleigh. Robert Raleigh. Thank you.
Y'all stretch.
Just before we we'd like to finish.
I'm not a fan.
More after this. This won't be very long.
You got another one to call? Next is going to be long. Are they here? We'll do the preliminary stuff.
Uh-oh.
Sir, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm that the evidence you about to present in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Have a seat, state your name for the record, and tell us where you work and what do you do?
Ben Riley, I work for Cherokee County.
Hold on
Sheriff's
a minute.
Department, UPD, been there 11 and a half.
What do you mean there's no cabbage at the HEB? Lil Red? What's going on at the HEB? How can they be out of cabbage? That doesn't sound right.
Years.
And what do you do at the Sheriff's Department?
Investigate crimes, car crashes, supervise, and road patrol.
I want to turn your attention now to Thursday, July 5th, 2018, right around 1 p.m. Did you respond to 2155 Purcell Lane in Alpharetta, Cherokee County, Georgia?
I did.
Tell the jury what you responded for.
I responded for a person down. Essentially, I guess the son of the mother called and said he'd been to Iraq, seen a person burning before, he knows what it looks like, and I responded as the supervisor.
Where'd you come from?
That precinct.
How long did it take you to get there?
It took me quite a while.
And when you respond, what do you remember seeing there?
There was some family outside, and there was another deputy at the front porch.
You got your cell phone with you?
I do.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Do me a favor, the judge allows. Can you Google what day of the week is July 5th, 2018?
Oh my gosh. Why would... That don't seem right. Why are we Googling this?
No objection. Judge, I'll tender to evidence now State's Exhibit Riley 1, which is a calendar.
All right, I'm Googling about the cabbage situation. Hold on.
So, looking at State's Exhibit Riley 1, for your name and your one exhibit there, number 1.
We finna get to the bottom of
July
this cabbage
2018, Tuesday,
situation.
Wednesday, Thursday, so you respond July 5th, which is a Thursday?
Yes, sir.
About 1 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
And do you have an opportunity to review State's Exhibit Riley 2, which is just a portion of your video from your patrol vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Is it fair and accurate and
hold
describe
on.
you pulling up the driveway?
Yes, sir.
I have the answer for us. Yes, there is a cabbage shortage in some areas. In January 2024, well, that's not helping. What about now? Well, let's see. In January 2024, there was a shortage of red cabbage in Texas, the East and the West. The drought in Texas caused plantings to be delayed and the season to start a month later. So there you go. Apparently there is a shortage of cabbage.
Judge, at this time I'm tendering to evidence State's Exhibit Riley 2, which is a clip from his patrol vehicle video.
All right. Okay.
Tendering to evidence this time.
Go ahead. Move.
This you?
Yes, sir.
I don't know why listen, I like cabbage, but I like corned beef and cabbage, and that I don't do that until St. Patrick's Day, so that's March. I don't know what people are doing with all this cabbage. I have no idea. HEB is a grocery store. It stands for Here Everything's Better. It's a Texas thing.
Left of the screen, you'll see yourself walking up there.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you're welcome, Shelly Beans. I love HEBs. They're hard to find, though, in North Texas. They're very scant. They used to be everywhere.
Thank you.
When you arrived, where did you go?
I went to the left side of the house.
And where'd you end up?
And inside the house.
Did you go? How did you see in the house? Did you see Melody Farris, the defendant in the house?
Yes, sir.
Now let the record reflect. Is this the defendant that you saw in the house?
You know, I believe so.
Okay.
It's 6 years ago. Yes, sir.
Right. She looked like the person that you saw?
Yes, sir.
When you went in, where was she at?
She was on the outside, and then she came on inside.
Did you clear the house?
I did.
Tell the jury what clearing the house is.
So clearing the house is anytime you go on scene, you need to make sure that nothing else is inside the house, and that's just standard operating procedure, what we do.
When you walked in, did the defendant go and get
Oh, I
anything from
forgot
the house?
about cabbage
Yes, sir.
rolls.
And what
Those are
was
good
that?
too.
She asked if she could enter the house. She forgot to get 2 rings that were inside her drawer, and I allowed her to do so. And we went inside the house. She went into a junk drawer and pulled out 2 rings and put them on her ring finger.
Where was this in the house? Do you remember?
It was on the inside the kitchen.
The kitchen area.
Yes, sir.
And then after that, what happened?
And then she left. She went back outside.
At any point while you were out there, were you, I guess, tasked with doing security or making sure nothing was getting moved, things like that?
Yes, sir.
And did you ever smell anything?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury what you smelled.
Just like cleaning solution, like bleach. It was a very faint odor.
Remember anything about candle?
Yes, the candle was reflected in my report. I can't remember exactly the candle. It was 6 years ago.
But there was a candle burning in the house?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
That's it? Smelled like bleach and she had a candle. Okay.
Now, you said, are you corporal?
Yes, sir.
Corporal, I'm John Luke Weaver, and I represent Melody Farris.
What's up, John Luke Weaver?
So, what you just summed up, was that, how long were you there that day?
I was there for a while. I mean, if it happened at 1 o'clock, I wasn't relieved until about 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Right, so you were there 4 or 5 hours?
Sure.
All right. And you were the first one to respond for Cherokee County Sheriff's Office?
Incorrect.
Okay. Who was?
I believe it was be on CAD, but I know that I relieved Deputy Moss at the time.
All right. So there had already been a number of people there by the time you got there.
Sure.
All right. And
He's not-
you walked
he's
in,
very
were you the first person
intense.
to talk to Miss Farris that you know of?
I don't know.
Had anybody else? So you walked in the house immediately once you got there.
I don't remember.
All right. And you walked in the house and you immediately smelled. What did you say you smelled?
The odor like a cleaning solution, like bleach.
All right. Did you walk into a laundry room? Did you notice there was a laundry room close by when you walked in the house?
I don't remember.
Okay, you don't remember. And a candle. What did you say? You smelled a candle burning?
I believe there was it reflected in my report that there was a candle. I don't recall.
Because you don't recall a candle.
Correct.
I mean, it was
Why
6
would
years
you write in a
ago.
report that this candle was important to you, but you don't remember what it was?
Because that's 6 years ago.
Okay. Is it unusual for people to have a candle burning in their house?
Sure. Is it unusual?
Yes. Is it unusual? Or is it usual?
Yeah.
It's normal.
Correct.
So why was that unusual to you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to
And
tell
is
you
it
why.
unusual for people to...
Let me tell you why, sir. Because they weren't there they were there because there was a body in a burn pile. All right. And they were also and those types of things would be noticed. Just like when Letitia Stout reported Gannon missing. In the initial reports from first responding officers, they talked about the bathtub upstairs in the master bathroom being like a third of the way or a fourth of the way full. And it smelled like it had some type of cleaning product. They noted the smell of like carpet deodorizer. They weren't there because a person was injured and they subsequently died. There was a dead body. That's why they were there. So of course they're paying attention to that. Don't be rude.
clean their houses.
Yeah, that's standard.
It's standard. And when you walk into a house, some of them smell clean, correct?
Sure.
All right. And would this have been any more different than if you walked into anybody's clean house? Yours, for example.
No.
Go ahead, Judge. Hold on, one more.
Oh, geez, Louise. Here we go. Yes, Rachel, his demeanor is like, whoa, a little
All right,
intense.
So you cleared this house, yes?
Correct.
All right. And was anybody else with you?
I believe Deputy Moss.
Okay. And when you cleared this house, did you notice anything else out of place?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you notice any blood splatter?
No, sir.
Did you notice any droplets of blood?
No, sir.
Did you notice a bullet surreptitiously placed in the floor in the basement?
No, sir.
Okay. Nothing else. You just noticed maybe the smell of, you say bleach, maybe.
Yeah, cleaning solution, bleach.
And a candle.
Yes, sir.
But you don't remember what the candle smelled like.
No.
Okay. Anything else? Here.
Thank you, Hunter. Debbie, I'm going to follow up on this candle. I think you were in the kitchen, is that right?
Correct.
And you said it's been 6 years?
Yes.
Don't remember everything?
No.
Did you write a report?
Yes, sir.
Or you talked to Riley something significant or important to put in your report?
Absolutely.
Would it refresh your memory, your recollection, be able to
There
look at
you
your
go.
report
I was
and
wondering if
see
they were
what you
going to
said,
ask
wrote down about the
him
candle?
Yes.
about the. He wrote a report. Are you going to let him see his report? For Pete's sake, let's clear this
With all the
situation
technology, I
up.
have the reports on my laptop. So what I want you to do is take my laptop, just hold it to yourself. Is that your report?
Yes, sir.
Do me a favor. Go ahead and just read it to yourself. Don't read it out loud. Go to the section at the bottom there where it talks about the candle.
Okay, but also not just his voice, but his intense
All right, now,
stare
in the kitchen,
is
there was a door.
also
Where was the
Jason
candle at?
Spiller-esque.
I don't remember I mean, it's a big house. I don't remember exactly where the candle was.
Okay. Do you remember what room it is?
Hey, Patricia Burns, good to see you, babe.
Now
Happy
recall
New
what you
Year.
wrote in your report where the candle was.
Yeah, the candle was being lit in front of the basement door.
And approach on.
Oh, well, that's significant.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
We're going to go back and forth over this candle
Did you take any
situation.
photos of where this candle was?
No, sir.
Are you aware of any being taken of this candle?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever look in the dining room where the candle was?
Again, I couldn't even tell you where the dining room was.
Right. And you couldn't tell me where the laundry room was either.
Correct.
He's a beat cop, bruh. He's not,
Anything else?
you know, come
All
on.
right, you can sit down.
Thanks, sir.
Not CSI.
We approach this good.
All right.
You definitely would have something if this was a CSI, you know, if this was a crime scene investigator and the crime scene investigator didn't know where things were.
Off getting behind, but the attorneys have said that the next witness is going to be lengthy, and they don't
Okay.
want to start for 30 minutes and then break for the evening and then start back in the morning. So
I agree. Good call. All right. So I'm going to leave it there for today, and we will pick this back up tomorrow, and I will just stream the trial until we're done with it. I don't think that the trial is 3 weeks long, but it might be. But before I go, first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. I appreciate it super, super much, a lot. I appreciate it so much. And also tonight, if you need a little entertainment, like you need to, you're getting ready to go out or whatever for New Year's Eve, or you just want to chill, I'm doing a recap of all of Gypsy Rose Blanchard's shenanigans from the time that she got out of jail or prison last December 28th of 2023 up until her recent shenanigan with the TikTok scandal. And so if you guys would like to join me over there, I would be more than happy to have you. And I will go ahead and drop the Patreon link if you guys want to join. So there you go. All right, you guys, thank you so very much. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you either tonight in Patreon, or I'll see you tomorrow to continue with this trial. All right, have a great rest of your day. Bye. Oh, Monica, she has not had the baby yet. She's still pregnant. She's still pregnant. So she hasn't had the baby yet. I think she's due at the end of January. All right, you guys, I'll see you later. Bye.